Chapter 601. The Battle of the Human Territory. The 4 continents were all speechless. 8 Seal Dao artifact. Not to mention the other 3 continents, even the Eastern continent did not have such a Dao artifact. It could be said that the Heaven List might be the first man-made 8 Seal Dao artifact in hundreds of thousands of years. As a result, when the Dao artifact was completed, Qin Shujian could already be considered the number 1 blacksmith in the 4 continents. In comparison, the news of Qin Shujian killing Emperor Qiju was not that shocking. After all, an emperor had fallen. Although it was extremely rare, but it had happened. Although Emperor Qiju was an emperor, his strength was about the same as Ling Huang's. He had not truly entered the Nirvana realm. Therefore, compared to the death of a Nirvana realm emperor, the impact of Emperor Qiju was still a little small. Of course, this impact was compared to the birth of the 8 Seal Dao artifact. It was directly overshadowed. If it was alone, Qin Shujian killing Emperor Qiju was enough to shock the 4 continents. It could be said that the Battle of the Human Territory had almost reached the Battle of the Human Territory when they left the Eastern continent. At least, the Black Emperor and Emperor Qiju had already participated in the battle. At the last moment, the Divine Emperor and the Demon Emperor also took action to save people. They barely participated in the battle. In addition, Qin Shujian had the strength to kill an emperor. To a certain extent, it could already be defined as 5 emperors taking action. As for those below the emperor, there were more than 40 mighty figures participating in the battle, and almost half of them had fallen. So many powerhouses had fallen. In fact, it was not much less than the battle of the human race leaving the Eastern continent. The only difference was, in this battle, not a single human heavenly being cultivator died. However, many soldiers in the military formation died. But they used ordinary soldiers in exchange for the lives of more than 20 mighty figures. For any race, it was completely worth it. It could be said that, after this battle, the human race once again narrowed the gap between them and the enemy forces. This time, other than Qin Shujian's fame, there was another person who was completely famous. The human race, Marquis Baiyun. In fact, when the human race left the Eastern continent, Marquis Baiyun's performance was not bad. He stopped 5 9th-level heavenly beings by himself. But that was then. The light on the battlefield was covered by the human emperor and Qin Shujian, and the others didn't attract much attention at all. Until the war in the human territory, Marquis Baiyun had finally caught the attention of the other forces. One man's strength, fighting against 13 mighty figures. Furthermore, at the end of the battle, he had even killed several of them. Such strength. Even if they weren't the strongest of their race, they definitely weren't too far off. In terms of strength, in the eyes of the other races, the Marquis of Northern Cloud was second only to the human emperor and Qin Shujian. God Race Mystic Realm. Just as the Emperor God reached out to Fish Guxin and Guan back, a terrifying saber intent tore through the rift and arrived. In an instant, then, they bombarded the secret realm of the God Clan. It was as if they had sensed something. Suddenly, the God Clan powerhouses who were in charge of guarding the secret realm appeared. Who dares to invade the God Race? As soon as he finished speaking, that Almighty whose strength was comparable to an 8th-level celestial being was directly killed by the saber chi. His corpse, which had been cut into 2, fell from the void. The remaining saber chi did not stop. He had already slashed down very directly. Boom! The secret realm of the God Clan shook. Many God Clan powerhouses with low cultivation levels were killed by this attack. In the main hall, the Emperor God looked gloomy. His right hand was still stained with blood. A mysterious force lingered in it, preventing the wound from healing. After a while, the Emperor God groaned. The force entangled in his hand completely dissipated. Soon, his cracked palm healed at an extremely fast speed. In less than a breath, his palm had recovered to its original state. Qin Shujian. The Emperor God muttered this name. The killing intent in his eyes had already solidified. In a short period of time, he had already suffered 2 losses at the hands of the human clan. The first time it was the human emperor. The second time it was Qin Shujian. At this moment, in the main hall, all the God Clan powerhouses had gathered. Guxin and Guwon felt the saber chi that was chasing after them. Their faces were ghastly pale. That saber. Another one of the few remaining almighties of the God clan had fallen. The main hall fell into a dead silence. Although the other God clan powerhouses did not know what had happened, they knew that something bad must have happened. Looking at the Emperor God's wound that had just healed, and the saber that had slashed into the secret realm of the God clan and caused many casualties, they all hinted at many things. My Emperor, now that the human clan has obtained an 8-seal Dao artifact, their luck must have increased greatly. It will not be easy for us to keep the human clan in check. If the human clan is allowed to grow, I'm afraid the God clan will be in danger. Guxin took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, the threat to the human clan. He had seen it all. Although the human clan did not have many almighties, the human emperor and Qin Shujian, who were supreme powerhouses, were enough to suppress the entire clan. The rest, the human clan only needed to recuperate. The God clan, as a clan that split from the human clan, naturally understood how great the human clan's potential was. Judging from the current situation of the human clan, it would not take too long. Perhaps 1,000 years would be enough. 1,000 years. It would be enough for the human clan to produce a batch of almighties. When that time comes, it would be extremely difficult for the other clans to keep the human clan in check. And with the human clan's vengeful nature, the human clan would not let the God clan off so easily after going against them time and time again. One clan, two emperors. The God emperor's expression was gloomy as he said coldly, "It is easier said than done to deal with the human clan. Right now, all the clans are conserving their strength and are unwilling to work for others. Under such circumstances, there is no way to truly unite. However, no matter how strong the human clan is, they have yet to produce a true immortal. Now that the laws of heaven and earth have been perfected, do not participate in the conflict of the human clan for the time being. Everything will wait until Bin Huang breaks through to true immortal." Things were different now. In the past, when the laws of heaven and earth were incomplete, the nirvana realm was the limit. But things were different now. With the laws of heaven and earth complete, the path to true immortal was completely open. Becoming an immortal, that was the main goal. As long as he became an immortal, in the God Emperor's opinion, no matter how strong the human emperor and Qin Shujian were, they would not be able to cause any trouble. But if the human emperor became an immortal first, the God clan would be in dire straits. It could be said, although the nirvana realm could still be considered supreme experts, as long as a true immortal was born, the nirvana realm experts would fall from their pedestal. Right now, the God clan could not deal with the human clan. But as long as the God emperor broke through to true immortal, all problems would not be a problem. When the other God clan members heard this, they were also stunned. True immortal. This term was still too far away for them. A God clan expert said in a deep voice, "Is my emperor about to break through to true immortal?" It is not that easy to break through to true immortal. It is just a chance. The God emperor sighed and shook his head. Bloodling Huang has not made a move from the beginning to the end. Perhaps he is already looking for a breakthrough. Right now, the situation between the various clans is delicate. The human clan is our enemy, but not our only enemy. As he spoke, he looked at the high priest of the God clan and said, "How are your injuries now, high priest?" "I have recovered a little," the high priest of the God clan said faintly. If he had not been injured by the Godslayer, his injuries would have healed long ago. It was only because he was injured by Zhu Bing that he had not recovered yet. The God Emperor said, "High priest, what can you see now?" He did not elaborate. However, the high priest of the God clan closed his eyes for a while. After a long time, he opened his eyes again. It has been 1,080,000 years since the ancient times, and the myriad clans have been silent for a long time. This time, the human clan has walked out of the eastern continent, just in time. The glory of the ancient times is looming. Perhaps this time, the myriad clans will welcome a new life. If my emperor can break through to true immortal, he will definitely lead the God clan to glory. Hearing this, the God emperor nodded slightly. Just as he thought, now that the laws of heaven and earth were perfected, it might prove that the myriad clans that had been silent for a long time had a chance to return to their ancient glory. The Scarlet Jew's Secret Realm. As Emperor Qi Ju died, the entire Scarlet Jew's secret realm shook violently. A wave of sadness spread through his heart. The faces of the Qi Jueyuan clan's experts were all deathly pale. Emperor Qi Ju had died. This proved that the Qi Jueyuan clan no longer had an emperor, a race that did not have a ruler overseeing it. In the eyes of the other clans, it was a delicious steamed bun that anyone could take a bite of. A mighty figure of the Qi Jueyuan clan said in panic, "The emperor has died. Those clans will definitely attack us. Why don't we ask the demon clan for help?" Humph. What's the use of asking the demon clan for help? If the demon clan really wanted to attack, how could my emperor have died? Another mighty figure roared. The demon clan is no longer trustworthy. My emperor's death is definitely related to them. Now, the only way to protect the foundation of our clan is to seal the secret realm. Yes, seal the secret realm. As soon as these words were spoken, the other mighty figures immediately nodded in agreement. Seal the secret realm. This was the only thing the Qi Jueyuan clan could do. Once the entrance to the secret realm was sealed, the other clans would not be able to find a way to enter the secret realm. If they wanted to forcefully break through the secret realm, even if the emperors of the various clans made a move, it would not be that easy. Soon, the Qi Jueyuan clan announced that they would seal the secret realm. After the Eldar, in a short period of time, another clan sealed the secret realm and hid from the world. Some forces that were preparing to attack the Qi Jueyuan clan. After hearing this news, they could only sigh and regret taking a step forward. It was very difficult to break through the sealed secret realm. Unless they had a powerful divine weapon, they would have a chance to forcefully tear open the space of the secret realm and attack the Qi Jueyuan clan's territory. However, a divine weapon that could tear open the space of the secret realm was not ordinary. At the very least, it would need a Dao artifact of the 8-9 seals, or even Zubing, based on the current situation of the 4 continents. Almost no clan had such a divine weapon. Oh, except for the human clan. But now, the human clan would not rashly attack the Qi Jueyuan clan. Because no matter what, on the surface, the Qi Jueyuan clan was a subsidiary of the demon clan. The human clan had many enemies in the 3 continents. Now that they were hiding in the human territory, unless it was necessary, no experts would easily start a war. However, if the human clan dared to walk out of their territory, they might be ambushed. As a result, the human clan would not easily take the risk for a half-crippled Qi Jueyuan clan. Therefore, there was nothing wrong with the Qi Jueyuan clan's method of sealing the secret realm. 8 Seals Dao Artifact. Killed Qi Ju Emperor. In the imperial court, after receiving this news, the human emperor's face was filled with both surprise and gratification. Killed an emperor of a clan. Although it was the emperor of the Qi Jueyuan clan. But it was enough. Thinking of what he had said, the human emperor could not help but shake his head and laugh. He really doesn't owe anyone a favor. The reason why he killed Qi Ju Emperor can't be to fulfill that promise, right? The fragment of the leaderboard of immortals was given to Qin Shujian. In exchange, the other party had to kill an emperor of a clan. In the end, not many days later, Qi Ju Emperor died in the hands of Qin Shujian. The human emperor was also surprised by this. Others did not know the depth of Qin Shujian's strength, but how could he not know? Although the other party's strength was extremely strong, but his realm was still above the 5th level of the sky-human realm. In the human emperor's opinion, if Qin Shujian wanted to kill an emperor of a clan, it would definitely take a long time to do so. In the end, in less than a month, Qi Ju Emperor was gone. This matter was completely out of the human emperor's expectations. In the imperial court, the other ministers also received the news of this victory. Many people were shocked by Qin Shujian's strength. But soon, a minister reacted and said with cupped fists, "Congratulations, Your Majesty. This time, the human race has killed an emperor and 21 mighty figures, which has greatly weakened the strength of the foreign races." That's right, Marquis Baiyun's performance this time is excellent. General Mingyuan and the city lords of the 4 cities have also contributed a lot. In my opinion, they should be rewarded based on their contributions. I agree. This is a great contribution. They should be rewarded. Many ministers spoke up one after another. However, When it came to rewards based on their contributions, they consciously ignored Qin Shujian. There was no choice. Although Qin Shujian was a human, to put it bluntly, he was an expert of the cultivation world and did not belong to the imperial court. They understood Qin Shujian's contributions. However, now that the imperial court was praising Qin Shujian with all their might, it would undoubtedly show that the imperial court was incompetent. Moreover, these ministers were not sure what the human emperor was thinking. After all, it was a good thing for the human race that Qin Shujian was powerful. However, if he was as powerful as the human emperor, a good thing might become a bad thing. The matter of the imperial family. It had always been difficult to guess. Therefore, these ministers wisely did not mention Qin Shujian, only mentioning Marquis Bayun and other ministers of the imperial court. The human emperor nodded slightly and said, "As you said, those who have contributed in this battle should be rewarded based on their contributions. This battle should also be engraved in the human race's monument and passed down for generations." Then, the human emperor looked at Su Zhan and said, "Elder Su, how long will it take for the imperial astronomer to build the human race's monument?" "Reporting to your majesty, everything is ready. We should be able to start forging in a few days." "Well, it's not easy to preserve the innate embryo. Don't delay it for too long," the human emperor said indifferently. Su Zhan cupped his hands and replied, "Yes, to tell the truth." He was also secretly cursing Qin Shujian. Everything was fine. In the end, he went to the human territory to forge a divine weapon. It was one thing to forge it, but it took such a long time to do so. If it weren't for the special methods of the imperial astronomer that could prolong the preservation of the innate embryo obtained from forcefully opening the new area would have been completely wasted. The most infuriating thing was, Qin Shujian didn't even ask him to go over and observe the forging of the divine weapon. 8-seal Dao artifact. Thinking of this, Su Zhan's heart twitched. He had grown so big. He had never seen a complete 8-seal Dao artifact. Maybe the heavenly list this time was the pinnacle of forging in the next tens of thousands of years. Such a grand event. He, Su Zhan, actually couldn't witness it with his own eyes. He might regret it for the rest of his life. On the other side, Liang Mountain Spirit Domain. At this moment, Qin Shujian had already quietly returned to the main sect with the heavenly list. This time, he had only been away for a month. Nothing major had happened in the sect. As for Shun Yuqing and the others, they had already returned to the eastern continent from the human territory before the war broke out. After all, in that kind of war, even quite a number of almighties had perished. What could some cultivators of the spirit martial realm and the real martial realm do? In the courtyard, Qin Shujian held the heavenly list in his hand. This 8-seal Dao artifact. At this moment, even if he didn't deliberately activate it, it could still emit a powerful pressure. It should be because it had just been forged. Although there was spirituality in the Dao artifact, it wasn't too powerful. He looked at the heavenly list for a long time. Qin Shujian suddenly laughed and said, "This wave is not a loss." It was more than a loss. It was a huge profit. After killing Emperor Qiju and suppressing a group of mighty figures, there were many experts in the heavenly list. These experts, some had already fallen. Some were still alive. But no matter what, with the sealing power of the heavenly list, these cultivators had no chance of breaking the seal. 8-seal Dao artifact. It wasn't just a saying. Even if a supreme expert of the Nirvana realm was taken in, he would have to stay obediently. The only thing that Qin Shujian felt regretful, it was that he couldn't keep all the mighty figures of the God Clan and the Demon Clan in the end. He didn't expect it. The Divine Emperor and the Demon Emperor were so bold that they dared to cross the space to save people at the critical moment. To be honest, from the beginning, Qin Shujian wasn't worried that the Divine Emperor and the Demon Emperor would make a move, because the other party had just been seriously injured by the Human Emperor. No one was sure. Was the Human Emperor hiding in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to make a move? In the end, at the last moment, the emperors of the two clans still made a move. However, it was also because of the existence of the Human Emperor that the two emperors only made a move to save people. They didn't even pause for a moment. It could be seen. The last battle had already frightened them by the human emperor. Let me go out and get some fresh air. Godslayer was already clamoring in the sea of consciousness. Hearing this, Qin Shujian had no choice but to let him out. He still had to give face to Zhu Bing. If Godslayer was unhappy and quit the next time the battle started, it would be awkward. This time, he was able to kill Qiju Emperor in an instant. It was because of the suppression of the Heaven List and the power of Godslayer that he was able to do this. After the stone saber appeared, looking at the Heaven List in front of him, he said with emotion, 8 Seal Dao artifact, you really dared to do it. By the way, what method did you use at the last moment? How could it transform the Heaven List directly? Godslayer first sighed with emotion, then he remembered the last scene when Qin Shujian forged the magic weapon. It was supposed to be a 7 Seal Dao artifact on the Heaven List. In an instant, it became an 8 Seal Dao artifact. It was also because of this that Qiju Emperor was caught off guard. Such a method. Even Godslayer had never seen it. Hearing this, Qin Shujian said with a faint smile, it's just some small tricks of mine. It's not elegant, so don't mention it. He didn't say too much to Godslayer. Killing evil fiends and plundering luck points was something like that. It was fine as long as he knew. There was no need to let the whole street know. It's all thanks to the fragments of the immortal ranking of 10,000 clans that I was able to forge an 8 Seal Dao artifact this time. Otherwise, the foundation of the Heaven List wouldn't have been able to promote it to such a level. Of course, at the mention of the immortal ranking of 10,000 clans, Godslayer said proudly, the immortal ranking of 10,000 clans is also a top existence among the 9 Seal Dao artifacts. However, your Heaven List has now become an 8 Seal Dao artifact. Although it's not as good as the immortal ranking of 10,000 clans, it's still possible. If there's a chance in the future, it might also grow to the level of a 9 Seal Dao artifact. You have to know that 9 Seal Dao artifacts were extremely rare in ancient times. Each of them had all kinds of magic. This time you really forged a supreme treasure. Use it well. The Heaven List will be the foundation of Yuanzhong in the future. After feeling proud, Godslayer also held the Heaven List in high esteem. An 8 Seal Dao artifact. No matter where it was, it would almost be considered a top supreme treasure. Above that would be a 9 Seal Dao artifact. Moreover, with the foundation of the Heaven List, the probability of it becoming a 9 Seal Dao artifact in the future was quite high. If it could really become a 9 Seal Dao artifact, perhaps, it would also have the qualifications to be on par with the immortal ranking of 10,000 clans. It would be praised by Godslayer. The smile on Qin Shujian's face became more obvious. At this moment, he used his Dharma eye to look at the sky and saw the rising providence of Yuanzhong. It was more than a few times richer than before. Vast and mighty providence. It stretched for 100,000 miles. It turned into a huge city that suppressed the entire Liang Mountain Spirit region. On the city wall, the silhouette formed by Providence held a list in its hand. It looked exactly like the Heaven List. An 8th grade force. Qin Shujian let out a long breath. When the Heaven List was successfully forged, Yuanzhong jumped from a 6th grade force to an 8th grade force. A 7th grade force raised the cultivation of 50,000 cultivators by 7 levels. The upper limit cannot exceed the 5th level of the Divine Martial Realm. An 8th grade force raised the cultivation of 100,000 cultivators by 8 levels. The upper limit cannot exceed the peak of the Divine Martial Realm. At this moment, the option to raise the cultivation level was still there. However, Qin Shujian did not have the intention to use this function. In the past, raising the strength of the disciples through the promotion of the sect was the fastest way. But now it seemed, this method was like pulling up seedlings to help them grow. Raising the peak of the Divine Martial Realm like this would have almost no hope of breaking through to the Diviner Realm. Moreover, adding the 7th grade and 8th grade forces together, it would only raise the cultivation level by 14 levels. Currently, there were not many native spiritual martial realm disciples in the sect. Most of them were in the basic martial realm and the true martial realm. As a result, even if there was an increase, it would be impossible to raise 100,000 peak Divine Martial Realm disciples. At most, there would be 1,000 more peak Divine Martial Realm disciples. But what was the use of having peak divine martial realm disciples who had almost no hope of breaking through to the diviner realm? The current Yuan Zone. It did not lack peak divine martial realm disciples. Even the entire human race did not lack peak divine martial realm disciples. It lacked diviners. It lacked almighties. It lacked top experts who could take charge of a region, not to mention other things. With Qin Shujian's current strength, he could kill a bunch of peak divine martial realm disciples with a wave of his hand. Such cultivators would be useless. Therefore, he simply gave up on killing the goose that laid the golden eggs. After all, the level of the sect increased and the providence became stronger. This was already not a loss. The other things, they were all small things. Chapter 602. Looking at the heaven list in front of him, Qin Shujian took out a drop of pale golden blood from his storage ring. That was snatched by him when the Emperor God was fishing for people. The blood merged into the heaven list. Suddenly, the Emperor God's information appeared in it. Name, race, age, 8,722 years old, realm, celestial being, level 10, nirvana, combat strength, 36, 200 talent assessment. Genius, just like the myriad races immortal list. The heaven list also had some of its functions. Those were some of the abilities that Qin Shujian bestowed when he forged it. However, compared to the complete myriad races immortal list, the heaven list was still a lot worse. Not to mention the complete list. Even if it was a fragment of the myriad races immortal list, the heaven list was slightly inferior in some functions. Because as the fragments melted, the rule power on it had dissipated. Although the heaven list could determine age, realm, combat strength, and talent through blood, but there was no way to know the name and race. However, these things could be improved. Qin Shujian looked at the heaven list and said softly, "This blood is called the Emperor God, from the God clan." After saying that, the name column changed from blank to Emperor God. The race column also changed from blank to God clan. 36,200 combat strength. The Emperor God's strength is indeed tyrannical. Di Ling Huang's combat strength is only more than 20,000, a gap of 12,000 from the Emperor God. Qin Shujian also had a certain understanding of the Emperor God's strength, a gap of 12,000 combat strength. Then to the increase of the rule power. This gap would be expanded to an extent that would be difficult to make up for. In the end, Di Ling Huang was only at celestial being level 10 and had not reached the nirvana realm. In terms of strength, although it was considered powerful among the intermediate races, but compared to a top elite like the Emperor God, there was still a big gap. Not to mention the Emperor God. Di Ling Huang was probably a level lower than the Emperor Black Emperor who attacked earlier. Subsequently, Qin Shujian took out the Demon Emperor's broken finger again. That huge finger was also dozens of feet in size. It was only because he had sealed it that the severed finger looked normal. At this moment, the severed finger was taken out. It was still trembling slightly, trying to resist the power of the seal. However, in the end, such resistance was futile. After that, Qin Shujian took out a drop of blood from his severed finger and fused it into the heaven ranking. Immediately, the information that belonged to the Demon Emperor was also displayed. Name, race, age, 19,325 realm, celestial being 10th level, nirvana, combat power, 39, 100 talent assessment. High A Demon Emperor's battle prowess was about the same as a Divine Emperor's, but it was slightly higher. It was only a difference of more than 1,000 combat power. It would not be an easy task to determine the outcome of the battle by relying on this. Furthermore, there was only a small difference. If the Divine Emperor still had some hidden cards, he would be able to level the playing field. As for the name and race column, as Qin Shujian spoke, the Heaven leaderboard also automatically filled in the gaps. Name, Demon Emperor race, Demon Clan. My combat power has also reached 30,000. This means that the main difference between me and the Divine Emperor and the Demon Emperor is probably in the application of the rules. As long as this point is taken care of, the other problems won't be big. As for the Human Emperor's combat power, it should be at least 50,000. After all, it's an expert who can suppress the emperors of the 4 clans. How can its strength be simple? Now it seems that the gap between the Immortal Realm and the Nirvana Realm is still very big. After all, with the strength of the Demon Emperor and the others, after breaking through to the true immortal realm, they shouldn't be at the bottom. Even if they are at the bottom, their current combat power is still more than twice of a true immortal realm. However, according to Godslayer, the combat power of the Nirvana realm experts fluctuates. Perhaps the Demon Emperor and the Divine Emperor are not at their strongest at this time. That's not necessarily the case. Various thoughts flashed through Qin Shujian's mind. Finally, he asked, Senior, is the strength of the Nirvana realm fluctuating all the time? Otherwise, how can there be a peak state comparable to a true immortal? You can say that. Godslayer thought for a moment, then said, the combat power of the Nirvana realm will indeed fluctuate, but the fluctuation will not be too great. The true strength of the Nirvana realm lies in the control of the rules. They are the experts closest to the immortal realm, and their control of the rules can even achieve the extent of complete control of a rule for a short period of time. However, to achieve this step, not every Nirvana realm expert can do it. It's about the right time, the right place, and the right people. None of them can be missing. Godslayer's words were a little messy. However, when Qin Shujian heard it, he summed it up with 2 words. It depends on the face. Yes, it depends on the face. Whether or not the Nirvana realm could exert its peak strength completely depended on the state. In this case, it would be meaningless to evaluate the Nirvana realm purely based on combat power. However, Qin Shujian was not too worried. It was a world that depended on the face. Perhaps those Nirvana realm experts would not be able to exert such strength until they died. Subsequently, Qin Shujian held the heaven list in his hand. When his divine thoughts spread out, it connected the fate of the entire Yuan sect. In an instant, the fate of 100,000 miles of yellow clouds surged, shaking the void and buzzing non-stop. At this moment, everyone in the Liang Mountain spirit domain raised their heads and looked at the sky. There was clearly nothing there. However, it made people feel a suffocating pressure. As for the people of Yuan's sect, at this moment, their hearts suddenly trembled a few times. No matter what they did, there was no way for them to calm down. In the courtyard, the heaven list shook slightly. Thousands of yellow threads in the sky continuously gathered towards the list. Buzz! A terrifying fluctuation surged from the heaven list. Immediately, it spread out in all directions. After an unknown period of time, the suffocating pressure in the sky dissipated completely. The stone heaven list. It had an additional layer of dense luster. In Qin Shujian's hands, the 3 feet tall heaven list had already absorbed all of the fate of Yuan's sect. At this moment, although the heaven list was only an 8-seal Dao artifact, however, the aura that was emitted from it made even Qin Shujian's heart palpitate. More importantly, after it was integrated into the heaven list, a realization rose in his heart. That was, after the heaven list absorbed Yuan sect's fate, it did not need to be fixed in the Liang Mountain spirit domain. It could be brought out. In addition to that, everyone who entered the heaven list, as long as they died, a wisp of their true spirit would be on the list. This wisp of true spirit, it could increase the strength of the heaven list. After receiving this information, Qin Shujian's eyes flickered. However, his hand was already firmly grasping the heaven list. The god-slaying saber has never mentioned these things. The probability of him hiding something isn't high. Then, it's very likely that the god-slaying saber doesn't have a complete understanding of the treasures of providence. Otherwise, the heaven roll I created is different from other treasures of providence. Several thoughts flashed through Qin Shujian's mind. In the end, he still leaned towards the latter. After all, Godslayer was Zhu Bing. He did not fully understand the treasures of fate. Moreover, it was also very likely that the heaven list that he created had different functions. But no matter what, such a change in the heaven list made Qin Shujian ecstatic. If that was really the case, then as long as the heaven list was given a certain amount of time, it would grow to a terrifying extent. After all, there were so many disciples in Yuan's sect. If it really went on for a long time, it would be inevitable for them to fight and kill. Every time a disciple died, their strength would increase by a bit. No effect could be seen in a short time. But if it was 1,000 years, 10,000 years, The heaven list was enough to accumulate to a terrifying extent. It does look a bit like the investiture of the gods. Unfortunately, there is no way to confer the title of god. Otherwise, it would be good to change your name to the investiture of the gods. Thinking of the investiture of the gods that he knew, Qin Shujian could not help but laugh. Godslayer was puzzled. What investiture of the gods? Nothing. I just casually made up some stuff. Qin Shujian shook his head and did not talk much about this matter. Who knew if there was an investiture of the gods in this world? However, there was a high probability that there was no such thing. Now, he no longer thought that this world would be the world that he knew. Unlistenable. Unlistenable. That might be because Pangu was very powerful in other worlds, and then no one in the universe could mention this name. That might not be the case. Anyway, the 4 continents of this world were not the 4 continents that he knew. Even if the investiture of the gods really existed, that would not be in this world. Immediately after, Qin Shujian's gaze fell on the heaven list again. He moved his divine thoughts. He saw that the information of all the disciples was presented. Immediately after, the heaven list rose into the air, and in an instant, it bloomed with tens of thousands of rays of light. Immediately after, these rays of light turned into several beams of light and bombarded the various branches. The heaven vein, only to see a terrifying beam of light bombarding toward them. Immediately after, the entire martial arts practice field shook violently. A list. Unknowingly, it had already appeared there. Such an abnormality immediately alarmed the experts of the heaven vein. At the same time, the other branches also produced an additional ranking list without any prior agreement. Today, I set up the heaven list. All the disciples of the Yuan sect can be on the list. Basic martial arts, real martial arts, spiritual martial arts, divine martial arts, heavenly human martial arts, and genuine immortal martial arts. Only the top 100 of each realm. As long as you are on the heaven list, you will receive the blessings of the sect and speed up your cultivation. As long as you are on the heaven list, you will receive the blessings of the sect and be protected from disasters. As long as you are on the heaven list, you will receive the blessings of the sect and be expected to become a heavenly human true immortal in the future. Majestic words, transmitted into the minds of all the disciples of the sect. In an instant, the sect was shocked. Everyone's breathing became hurried as they looked at the list. Their eyes became incomparably hot. The heaven list. This was the heaven list. Originally, they thought that by being on the heaven list, they would at most get some contribution points. But now it seemed, entering the heaven roll, that bit of contribution points was nothing at all. As Qin Shujian's words fell, rows of names appeared on the rankings of each branch. Those were the disciples on the heaven list who thought that they were the strongest at this stage. Immediately, many people felt that there was something in the dark that was blessing them. I feel that I can absorb the spiritual energy faster. It's true. Being on the heaven list can really increase the speed of cultivation. Those disciples who were on the heaven list were ecstatic. Those who were not on the heaven list felt sour in their hearts. Some people were even more unconvinced. They thought that their strength would not be weaker than those on the list. Why did they not believe that others could be on the list? It was also at this time. Qin Shujian's words came again. The top 100 on the heaven list has been selected. From today onwards, the heaven list competition will begin. Those who are not convinced can challenge. The winner can be on the list, and the loser will be removed from the list. Those who are not on the list can challenge the bottom 10 of each list. Those who are on the list can challenge those who are 10 ranks above them. In addition, those who are on the list can accept 3 challenges every month. After 3 times, they can refuse the challenge that month. As disciples of the sect, you are not allowed to kill or maliciously injure others when competing for the list. Those who violate the rules will have their contribution points deducted and will be expelled from the sect. After saying that, all the disciples of the branches bowed and said, "We obey the sect master's order." At the main sect, the heaven list had returned to Qin Shujian's hands. He had just passed the heaven list. He could directly communicate with all the disciples of the sect. This was also a strengthened version of the communication jade talisman. As for the rankings of the various branches, It was a list formed by a trace of the heaven list's power, although its power was comparable to a 4-5 seal Dao artifact. But its real purpose, it was purely to show others the rankings. On the list, it simply revealed everyone's realm, name, age, and talent evaluation. As for the battle strength, Qin Shujian hid all of it. In addition, only one name was shown on the list of divine martial artists and above. There was no other information. If one wanted to see this hidden information, they could only see it through the heaven list. At this time, on the celestial list of the heaven ranking, there were only 2 names that existed there alone. First on the heaven list, Qin Shujian. Second on the heaven list, Mu Yangas. For Zhang Feng, he did not enter the list, because the other party had not given birth to true intelligence and was not considered a living being. He did not have the qualifications to enter the list. In such a large Yuan sect, there were only 2 heaven men. Regarding this, Qin Shujian did not feel that there was anything wrong with it. After all, until now, Yuan sect had only been established for about 5 years. 5 years. It was not an easy thing to give birth to a heaven man normally. After doing all this, Qin Shujian was finally free to pay attention to the many powerful figures suppressed in the heaven list. However, he was just about to cultivate. On the other side, Su Zhan had already come to find him. Sect Master Qin is really in a good mood. Sitting in the courtyard, Su Zhan said with some bitterness. He was given a strange look by the other party. Qin Shujian had goosebumps all over his body. But on second thought, he understood why the other party had such an expression. Elder Su Zhan is finally here. I missed you so much. I was thinking that if Elder Su Zhan did not come, I would have left for the Central State Prefecture to look for you. 8 Seal Dao Artifact. Sect Master Qin has set a precedent for the human clan for tens of thousands of years. Su Zhan glanced at him with hidden bitterness before he sighed and said, It is my life's regret that I was not able to witness such a grand occasion with my own eyes. Qin Shujian drank tea to hide his embarrassment. He did not know how to answer. If he said that he despised Su Zhan's strength, it would be equivalent to slapping his own face. After thinking for a while, Qin Shujian coughed lightly and said, This time, the casting of the heaven list happened so suddenly that I was not prepared in advance. If it wasn't for the casting of the human clan's monument at this time, Elder Su Zhan might have been able to resolve the regret in your heart. Sect Master Qin can cast an 8 Seal Dao artifact again? Su Zhan did not believe it. To cast an 8 Seal Dao artifact, it was too important to be at the right time. Although he thought that Qin Shujian's casting method was exquisite and peerless, but to say that he could cast an 8 Seal Dao artifact again in a short period of time, he would not believe it no matter what. Qin Shujian said with a faint smile, As long as the conditions permit, why not? It's just that. Does the Imperial Court still have fragments of the Immortal Leaderboard? It's fine if you don't have fragments of the Heavenly Mirror. As long as you take out 1 or 2 fragments of the Supreme Treasure, I am confident that I can cast it. If you don't have such Supreme Treasure fragments, then there is no way. Qin Shujian shook his head and said frankly, to be able to cast an 8 Seal Dao artifact, as long as he had the Supreme Treasure fragments, then there was a great chance. Just like the Heaven List. If the Qiju Emperor did not make a move, the Heaven List could also be promoted to an 8 Seal Dao artifact. It was only because of the Qiju Emperor. It was only then that Qin Shujian used his providence to create the Heaven List. Or else, there was no need to waste 500 luck points at all. However, this time, Qin Shujian himself had also gained a lot of enlightenment from the casting of the Heaven List. He had a premonition. If there were no problems, he might be able to take a step forward in casting if he continued to cast a few 8 Seal Dao artifacts. If there was also a Saint Stage Blacksmith. When that time came, he should be only 1 step away from the Saint Stage. This was also why. The reason Qin Shujian dared to boast about casting an 8 Seal Dao artifact. Anyway, the materials were provided by the Imperial Court. It would be a waste if he did not use them. However, to be on the safe side, Qin Shujian added, However, there are some things that Elder Su should be very clear about. Forging isn't a 100% success rate. If it fails, I won't be responsible. This old man also understands this matter. Su Zhan nodded slightly and then said, Sect Master Qin, I can send a message back to His Majesty. There will be a result in a day or two at most. At that time, I hope Sect Master Qin can make a move immediately. After all, it is not easy to preserve the Khanate embryo. If you delay any longer, the Khanate Qi inside will be exhausted. Don't worry, I can do it at any time, Qin Shujian said. There was nothing he could do now. Casting the human race monument. It was also something that he had promised long ago. There was no need to delay any longer. After receiving a definite answer from Qin Shujian, Su Zhan's expression also relaxed. Then he said, This time, let's do it in the East Continent. Don't go to the human territory and provoke those races. He was a little worried. Qin Shujian was going to go to the human territory to cast the monument again. When that time came, there would be another big battle. Although the human race did not lose any heavenly beings in the previous battle, it could be considered a huge gain. However, it was possible that the demon race and other forces would not go crazy this time. If they guessed wrong, the human race could not afford too much turmoil now. To a certain extent, the human race was also very fragile now. There were only a few experts who could really hold up the fort, and the remaining heavenly beings were pitifully few. If they really killed those remaining heavenly beings, there was no need for that. Understanding Su Zhan's worries, Qin Shujian said, Don't worry, Sect Master Su. The human race monument can be carried out in the East Continent. The last time he made a move, it was to make his name as the #1 blacksmith in the 4 continents known. It also made some experts who were enemies of the demon race and other forces dare to accept the mission of the origin sect. Anywhere, they all put benefits first. The demon race, god race, and other forces were powerful, but they were not to the extent of suppressing all races. As long as the benefits were enough, there would always be experts who would go against these races. The #1 blacksmith in the 4 continents. He had successfully forged an 8-seal Dao artifact. This matter was enough to make many cultivators have their own ideas. Not to mention anything else. Qin Shujian was sitting at home now. He estimated that it would not be long before experts brought the corpses of these forces to the origin sect to submit the mission. Therefore, there was no need to go to the human race's 100,000 miles territory to forge the human race monument. If he really did that, it would have the opposite effect. The appearance of the first 8-seal Dao artifact was still barely acceptable to the other races. But if the second 8-seal Dao artifact appeared, the various races would probably go crazy. When that time came, there might be another war where the various races besieged the human race. Even without Su Zhan saying it, Qin Shujian understood that the human race could no longer endure too many wars. What the human race needed now, it was to recuperate. The human race did not lack anything now. What they lacked was time. After hearing Qin Shujian's promise, Su Zhan also heaved a sigh of relief. As long as they did not go to the human race's 100,000 miles territory to forge, everything else was fine. Very soon, Su Zhan got up and left. He wanted to send the message back to Zhongzhou. It would take some time to go back and forth. At the same time, Su Zhan was also clear about the rules of the origin sect. The main sect did not allow outsiders to stay overnight. Anyway, Cold Mountain City was not far from here. He might as well go there. Moreover, to be able to stay in Cold Mountain City, he would also have the opportunity to observe the 6-seal Dao artifact up close. As for the heaven list, Su Zhan did not ask to see it, because he knew that such a treasure was the foundation of a sect. If he asked for it rashly, it might cause Qin Shujian to be disgusted. After Su Zhan left, Qin Shujian took advantage of this time to convert the things suppressed in the heaven list into his own strength. Now, in the heaven list, there were many things suppressed. There were a total of 8 almighties. 2 of them were from the demon race, and the remaining 6 were from other races. And when he used the heaven list to suppress them, Qin Shujian did not accept all almighties. He only accepted those almighties above the 8th level of the heaven-human realm. As for the 7th level of the heaven-human realm, he did not even bother to look at them. As for why he did not accept more, because there were very few 9th level heaven-human realm almighties during the war. Therefore, Qin Shujian could only settle for the next best thing, which was to accept some 8th-level heaven human realm almighties. When his divine will landed, a huge space within the heavenly ranking appeared in his perception. In the vast space, there were cages after cages. Inside them were the results of the war. After all, it was an 8-seal Tao artifact. It could not be used only to record some information. Seal. Suppress. In fact, this was one of the functions of the heaven list. At this moment, Qin Shujian slowly walked in front of a cage. There was a shrunken vermilion bird suppressed there. Chapter 603. Looking at the vermilion bird in front of him, there was also some surprise in Qin Shujian's eyes. As a legendary divine beast in his previous life, this was the first time he had seen a living one. However, Qin Shujian was no longer a person from his previous life. Divine beasts were divine beasts, but in his eyes, they were just that. It was mainly because Holy Fire's strength was really very ordinary. When he looked over with his Dharma eyes, the other party's cultivation was exposed. The 8th level of the celestial being realm, SK, the dignified demon saint of the demon clan, is already so weak. Qin Shujian's words were full of sarcasm. In the cage, the seemingly dead vermilion bird seemed to have sensed something. Her body trembled and she opened her closed eyes. Her eyes were confused at first, but soon turned into fear. Qin Shujian, what do you want to do? Vermilion bird opened her mouth. Her weak voice was full of panic. She was afraid. No one was not afraid of death. Even the great saint of the demon clan would be afraid of death. Holy Fire wanted to resist, but the sealing power in the cage was too strong. She had no ability to resist at all. When she saw Qin Shujian, Holy Fire was already guessing what the other party would do. With the enmity between the human clan and the demon clan, Qin Shujian would most likely kill her. Thinking of this, Holy Fire's body trembled even more. She was the only powerful figure in the Vermilion Bird clan. If she died, the strength of the Vermilion Bird clan would definitely be greatly reduced. At that time, in the demon clan, Vermilion Bird no longer had any status to speak of. Qin Shujian said calmly, as a prisoner, what do you think I want to do? Or do you think you still have a chance to escape? You want to kill me? Holy Fire screamed, and her voice suddenly became full of energy. But soon, her aura became dispirited again. Death. She would really die. At this moment, Holy Fire's body trembled violently. Seeing this, Qin Shujian's expression was also puzzled. Since when did the dignified demon saint become so afraid of death? He had to be suspicious. He didn't need to do anything. Holy Fire scared herself to death. However, thinking about it was just thinking about it. His face turned cold. So what if I kill you? It is rare for demons to kill humans. There is no room for reconciliation between our races. Even if I kill you, you have nothing to say. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Holy Fire was about to go crazy. It wasn't easy for her to cultivate to her current level, so she definitely couldn't die like this. The fear in his heart. This caused the Vermilion Bird to tremble violently. Don't kill me. As long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to submit. I'm willing to submit to you. So what if you've submitted? You're just at the 8th layer of the sky human stage. You're just an ant that I can crush with my bare hands. Do you think I care? Qin Shujian sneered disdainfully. 8th tier of the heaven realm. His strength was too weak. Hearing this, Holy Fire's face stiffened. She realized that the strength that she was so proud of seemed to be very weak in the eyes of the other party. For a moment, Holy Fire didn't know how to answer. Looking at the other party's appearance, Qin Shujian had some thoughts in his mind. However, he didn't show it. And you're a demon. If you submit to me, won't you be betraying the demon race? So what if I betray the demon race? Holy Fire gritted his teeth and said, the demon emperor, that old thing, didn't save me when he saw that I was trapped. I think Tianhong wasn't imprisoned here. He must have saved him. She wasn't a stupid person. This time, the 3 demon saints of the demon race made a move. She and another demon saint were suppressed here. Only Tianhong didn't appear. It was impossible for Tianhong to be killed by Qin Shujian alone, but it was even more impossible for Tianhong to escape from the other party in his state at that time. In this way, there was only one explanation. An expert of the demon race took action and forcibly rescued Tianhong. Among the demon race, there was only one demon emperor who had the strength to snatch someone from Qin Shujian. In just a few breaths of time, Holy Fire imagined the ins and outs of everything. However, and his imagination wasn't wrong at all. Qin Shujian nodded slightly and said, "That's right, the demon emperor saved Tianhong. For this, he also paid a little price." While they were talking, he had already taken out the demon emperor's broken finger. Seeing the severed finger, Holy Fire laughed maniacally. Well done, well done. That old bastard, the demon emperor, should have died a long time ago. He intentionally ostracized the Vermilion Bird clan, and this time, he intentionally tried to kill me. The demon race was heartless to me, so why should I work for the demon race? As long as Sect Master Qin is willing to spare my life, I'm willing to submit to you. In the end, Holy Fire had already lowered his head. In this situation, either die or submit. She had no choice. Right now, Holy Fire's only worry was that Qin Shujian wouldn't let him submit. If that was the case, then it would be troublesome. However, at this time, Qin Shujian left in front of Holy Fire and came to the center of all the cages. Immediately, the experts who were still alive in the cages all looked at Qin Shujian. There was anger. There was fear. There was dead silence. There were all kinds of looks in their eyes. Now that they were reduced to prisoners, no one cursed. The main reason was that they were suppressed by the heaven list, and cursing was a waste of energy. In addition, they also wanted to see what Qin Shujian wanted to do. These cultivators had also heard Holy Fire's words clearly. Some of the experts also had some ideas in their hearts. Qin Shujian clasped his hands behind his back and said in a clear voice, "Let's not talk too much. You all are enemies of the human clan, and I imprisoned you in the heaven list. I should have killed all of you, but I'll give you a chance now. Submit to me and willingly hand over half of your spirit god, and I'll spare your lives. If you're not willing, then there's nothing to say. You only have 3 breaths of time to consider. If you don't give an answer after 3 breaths of time, you'll all be killed. I'm willing to submit." As soon as his voice fell, Holy Fire immediately surrendered. Subsequently, another 2 8th-level celestial being mighty figures were willing to submit. None of the remaining experts said anything. Qin Shujian did not say much. The red lotus of purgation ignited and directly swallowed these experts. Suddenly, shrill screams echoed in the space. At this moment, Holy Fire and the other 2 surrendered experts were hiding in the cage, trembling. Looking at the experts being swallowed by the red lotus of purgation, their eyes were full of fear. Not long after, all the experts were refined. Qin Shujian waved his hand, and all the fire lotuses flew toward him. Immediately afterward, he absorbed all the power inside. Rumble. Among the experts refined, 2 were 9th-level Heaven Human Realm experts, and the rest were 8th-level Heaven Human Realm experts. This power gathered together was not weak at all. It took half an hour. Qin Shujian used all this power to expand his acupoints. Then, he looked at Holy Fire and the others. With a wave of his hand, the sealing power of the cage went in. Qin Shujian said coldly, "Hand over your spirit god." Hearing this, the 3 did not dare to resist and obediently split out half of their spirit god. Half of their spirit god was split. The aura of Holy Fire and the others directly declined to the extreme, as if they would die at any time. Qin Shujian did not even look at them. He turned around and left. In the courtyard, Qin Shujian grabbed the heaven list with one hand and sent the spirit gods of Holy Fire and the other 2 into it. Immediately afterward, the heaven list trembled slightly. The spirit gods of Holy Fire and the others were dyed with a mysterious aura. Immediately afterward, Qin Shujian returned to the space and sent the spirit gods of the 3 back into their bodies. The spirit gods returned to their bodies. The decadent aura of Holy Fire and the others also recovered a lot. Even his physical body had recovered a little. At this moment, Holy Fire also noticed the strangeness of her body. It was as if there was some strange power lingering in her spirit god, making her feel uncomfortable all over. Qin Shujian said, "I have integrated your spirit gods into the heaven list. Your every move in the future will not be able to escape the shackles of the heaven list. Similarly, if you dare to betray, then I can also make your spirit gods dissipate in an instant and completely fall. Hearing this, Holy Fire and the others trembled again, but no one said anything. Since they had surrendered, there were some things that he had already expected. Qin Shujian said, "You guys returned to your human forms." Yes, they did not dare to resist and obediently put away their bodies and turned into human forms. Fire Holiness was dressed in red, as if she was a charming woman standing in the midst of raging flames. The other two were middle-aged men with average looks. "Come out with me." Qin Shujian took a step forward and brought the three out. In the courtyard, Holy Fire and the other two suddenly appeared there. The three of them were shocked at first, but when they saw the man and the saber sitting on the stone bench, they immediately bowed and saluted. "Greetings, Sect Master Qin. Introduce yourselves. It's also a way for you guys to get to know each other." Qin Shujian put down the teacup in his hand and said calmly. Hearing this, the three of them did not dare to refuse. After looking at each other, Holy Fire said first, "I am Holy Fire, the leader of the Vermilion Bird Clan. I am in the 8th level of the Heaven-Human Realm. I am Jizhou, the elder of the Thousand Eye Clan. I am in the 8th level of the Heaven-Human Realm. I am Wushan, the elder of the Broken Mountain Clan. I am in the 8th level of the Heaven-Human Realm." The Vermilion Bird Clan aside, Qin Shujian also felt a little unfamiliar with the Thousand Eye Clan and the Broken Mountain Clan. "Tell me more about the Thousand Eye Clan and the Broken Mountain Clan." Yes, Wu Shan nodded and did not dare to disobey. The Broken Mountain Clan has an emperor in the 10th level of the Heaven-Human Realm, 2 elders in the 8th level of the Heaven-Human Realm, and 1 elder in the 7th level of the Heaven-Human Realm. They are considered a subsidiary clan of the Demon Clan. The Thousand Eye Clan's strength is the same as the Broken Mountain Clan. They are also subsidiary clans of the Demon Clan. Jizhou nodded and said, "The strongest one was in the 10th level of the Heaven-Human Realm. At most, there were 3 or 4 almighties in a clan. With such strength, it could be said that they were very weak." The weak clans in the 4 continents were probably similar to the Broken Mountain Clan and the Thousand Eye Clan. Qin Shujian said calmly, "Since you have submitted to me in order to save your lives, I will say the ugly words first. From the moment you appeared here, you are no longer the leaders of the Vermilion Bird Clan, the elders of the Thousand Eye Clan, or the Broken Mountain Clan. Now, you are only the elders of the Origin Sect. At the same time, you should also call me Sect Master. In the future, even if I attack your clan, you cannot disobey. As for the consequences of disobeying, I don't need to tell you. You should know." Sect Master, don't worry. We know what to do." Holy Fire and the other two trembled and hurriedly replied. Since they had submitted, there was no need to pretend to be tough. If they were afraid of death, then so be it. It was not something to be ashamed of. Therefore, they had already expected Qin Shujian's words. However, Holy Fire said, "Sect Master, I am the only one in the Vermilion Bird Clan who is at the 8th level of the Heaven-Human Realm. If possible, I hope you can bring all the members of the Vermilion Bird Clan away from the Demon Clan. I am confident that I can persuade the Vermilion Bird Clan to surrender. Although our clan is not strong, we are proficient in controlling fire. Sect Master is a famous blacksmith in the 4 continents. You should know that fire is also very important to forge a top divine weapon. The Vermilion Bird Clan controls a type of innate divine fire, which is very beneficial to blacksmithing." Innate divine fire. Hearing this, Qin Shujian's expression froze for a moment. He really had not inquired about the Vermilion Bird Clan. At this moment, Shi Dao, who had been standing at the side like a sculpture, said slowly, "She is right. The Vermilion Bird Clan does control innate divine fire. However, to control such a divine fire, one must at least reach the Nirvana realm. A little vermilion bird like her, who is only at the 8th level of the Heaven-Human Realm, probably can only control a little." He was despised for no reason. Holy Fire looked a little embarrassed. However, even if she can control a little bit of the innate divine fire, it is still much better than using your true essence to create fire. In the ancient heavenly court, The Vermilion Bird clan's true immortal was one of the most valued experts of the Emperor of Heaven. In the end, it is because of the existence of the innate divine fire. In the end, Godslayer said a few words of praise. He did not have much of a relationship with the Vermilion Bird clan. What he said was also the truth. The Vermilion Bird clan's innate divine fire was indeed very powerful and could be said to be peerless. Qin Shujian nodded after hearing this. He looked at Holy Fire and said, "If there is a chance, I can bring the Vermilion Bird clan out for you. However, as I said, it is naturally best for them to submit. If the Vermilion Bird clan refuses to submit, then don't blame me for being ruthless." "Don't worry, Sect Master. I understand." Holy Fire bowed like a woman of the human race. The flirtatious look she exuded. Qin Shujian only glanced at her briefly and did not look at her anymore. A woman's charms. He naturally liked it. However, now was not the time. He could only think about that when he was full and warm. Right now, he was not full and did not have the time to think about that. Then, Qin Shujian looked at Ji Zhou and Wu Shan and said, "I will also give you a chance. If you can persuade the Thousand Eye clan and the Broken Mountain clan to submit to the human race, it will be best. Otherwise, it will be too late for regrets when the human race invades your territory." Your two clans dared to send people to attack the human race's territory. Sooner or later, there will be an end to this. However, with the strength of the Thousand Eye clan and the Broken Mountain clan, to be honest, the human race does not need to send too many people. I alone can destroy your two clans. Ji Zhou and Wu Shan immediately bowed and said, "Don't worry, Sect Master. We will do our best." They understood how terrifying Qin Shujian was. They also knew how big the gap between their clans and the human race was. Originally, the Thousand Eye clan and the Broken Mountain clan had no intention of interfering with the human race's grievances. However, as a subordinate clan of the demon race, there were many things that were not up to them to decide. Therefore, the demon race had ordered. They could only do as they were told. Otherwise, if the demon emperor blamed them, the two clans would not be able to bear the consequences. The demon race has a total of 7 branches. 5 of them belong to the human race, 1 belongs to the Eldar, and 1 belongs to the demon race. From now on, the 3 of you are the elders of the demon race. Without my orders, you are not allowed to leave the demon race, and you are not allowed to act without my permission. If I find out that you have acted without my permission, you will not have a second chance." Qin Shujian's voice became cold. The heaven list emitted a faint light. The 3 of them immediately felt a sharp pain in their spiritual deities, and their faces turned pale. "Don't worry, Sect Master. We will not dare to disobey you." Holy Fire and the other 2 hurriedly begged for mercy. Qin Shujian said, "That's for the best. Besides, with your strength, you don't have the qualifications to be presumptuous in the Eastern continent. Even without the restriction of the Heaven Leaderboard, suppressing you is just a piece of cake. Now, follow me to the demon race." "Yes." Qin Shujian put the Heaven List and the Godslayer into his sea of consciousness and then walked out of the courtyard. As for Holy Fire and the other 2, they followed behind him obediently. Well, the spiritual chi is quite rich. Unfortunately, there are few people. Walking in the main sect, the 3 of them also silently sized up their surroundings. For the Eastern continent, it was their first time here. To be honest, the 3 of them had the idea of entering the Eastern continent, but they had never thought that they would enter as prisoners. Even if they did not deliberately spread their perception, they could still sense the truth of the main sect. The feeling that the main sect gave them was completely different from what they had expected. In the expectations of Holy Fire and the others, as the second strongest human being, Qin Shujian was a supreme existence who could kill an emperor. The force he belonged to should be full of powerhouses. At the very least, it should be full of talents. Looking at the current situation, there were few people. In their perception, there were less than 300 people in the entire main sect. That was not all. The strength of these 200 people was also ridiculously weak. There seemed to be only 2 in the God martial arts realm. The others were a bunch of spirit martial arts realm, true martial arts realm, and basic martial arts realm. Basic martial arts realm. This word was already a little unfamiliar to Holy Fire and the others. Not to mention the Vermilion Bird Clan, just the Broken Mountain Clan and the Thousand Pupil Clan. They were all born in the true martial arts realm and grew up between the spirit martial arts realm and the god martial arts realm. To them, the basic martial arts realm, it had been many years since they had heard of it. Only the god clan, only the living beings of the basic martial arts realm existed. And the god clan was originally a division of the human race. So it was normal for the human race to have basic martial arts realm cultivators. But this was the Yuan sect, the sect Qin Shujian was in. Needless to say, such a sect must have been passed down for countless years and was one of the top forces of the human race. Such an existence. How could there be humans of the basic martial arts realm? This was completely different from the holy land of cultivation or the holy land of the human race that they had imagined. For a moment, the three of them were a little confused. Although Qin Shujian was walking in front, he could feel the fluctuations in their hearts, but he had no intention of explaining. When they reached the mountain gate, Zhang Feng was still sitting there cross-legged. This sky corpse had advanced from the first tier of the celestial being to the second tier of the celestial being, and its intelligence seemed to have improved a little, but it had not yet reached the stage of developing intelligence. Zombie! Holy Fire was a little surprised. Qin Shujian turned to look at her and said as he walked, "What? Is there a zombie clan in the Western Prefecture?" "Of course." Holy Fire nodded and said, "The zombie clan is born and raised by the earth. As long as there are living beings, it is possible for the zombie clan to be born. Such a clan is almost impossible to destroy, not only in the Western Prefecture, but also in several other prefectures. But compared to the ancient times, the zombie clan today is weaker, and the strongest one is not even at the Saint Realm. In addition, in recent years, whenever the zombie clan attacks, there will be other clans to encircle and suppress them. As a result, the zombie clan has not been able to produce any experts, and their numbers are decreasing day by day. Now, the zombie clan rarely appears. Why did the various clans want to exterminate the zombie clan? Qin Shujian did not ask, because he knew the reason. Seeing that Qin Shujian did not reply, Holy Fire seemed to be a little bolder and continued, "Sect Master, there is a zombie at the second tier of the celestial being realm here. If it is nurtured well, it will be a powerful existence in the future. After all, the zombie clan has no bottleneck to speak of. As long as there is enough flesh and blood, it can steadily advance." These things, Qin Shujian also understood. When Holy Fire finished speaking, he also casually replied, "If it is fed 3/8 tier celestial being realm experts, will there be a chance for this zombie to advance to the 8th tier of the celestial being realm?" Hearing this, Holy Fire's pretty face suddenly stiffened. She never thought that Qin Shujian would say such a thing. She really did not know how to answer. Holy Fire could only smile to hide her fear. After that, she did not dare to say anything else, for fear that Qin Shujian would feed her to the zombie. With the other party's madness, such a thing was not impossible. Lion-Tiger Plain. As the location of the Demon Vein, this was considered one of the few pure lands in the Liang Mountain Spirit Domain. Because it was wearing the skin of the Yuan sect's branch, no players were willing to go to the Lion-Tiger Plain to fight monsters. In addition, the strength of the beasts inside was very weak. Most of them were at the basic martial arts realm and true martial arts realm. They could not provide much experience at all. So for a long time, no outsiders stepped into this place. In addition to Nyo Dali's Buddhist management, the Lion-Tiger Plain was much calmer. With the gradual increase of the spirit energy now, the strength of the beasts bred in the Lion-Tiger Plain had also steadily increased by a lot. But because of Nyo Dali's restrictions, these beasts never walked out of the Lion-Tiger Plain, so they did not cause any trouble. Walking into the Lion-Tiger Plain, Qin Shujian and the other three also encountered many beasts. However, after those beasts sensed the aura on their bodies, they all consciously avoided them and did not dare to approach easily. When it came to pursuing good luck and avoiding evil, beasts were also experts in this aspect. Not long after, the Ox Demon Cave was already in sight. Inside the cave, a green ox that was 100 feet long was lying on the ground and sleeping soundly. The sound of its snoring was like thunder. When Qin Shujian stepped into the range of the Ox Demon Cave, the green ox opened its eyes with difficulty. A hint of doubt flashed across its eyes. I seem to have sensed the sect master's aura. What's going on? Could it be that the sect master is here? Thinking of the two words, sect master, Nyodali hurriedly stood up from the ground. Its huge ox head poked out of the cave, and just happened to see the few people walking towards it. P.S. I plan to print this book into a book and then organize an event. Some readers will be selected to give the book as a gift. However, I'm not sure how many people will participate in the event. If there are too few people, it won't be a waste of time. So, I'm asking here first. If you have any ideas, you can leave a comment. Chapter 604. In the Ox Demon Cave. The green ox had already transformed into a human with 2 huge horns. He was looking at Qin Shujian with a silly smile. Sect Master, why are you so free to come to my Ox Demon Cave today? Why didn't you inform me in advance so that I could prepare in advance? What else do you need to prepare? Qin Shujian glanced at the Ox Demon Cave that had 4 bare walls and asked in return. Suddenly, Nyodali choked. Indeed, there was nothing to prepare here. The Ox Demon Cave was a wide cave. Not to mention anything else, there wasn't even a table or a chair. There was only one characteristic here. Empty. Very empty. Usually, Nyodali would just lie here and sleep. He wouldn't do anything. After a short moment of awkwardness, Nyodali touched his head and said with a smile, Sect Master, do you have any orders for me this time? I think it's too troublesome for you to take care of this lion-tiger plain alone, so I added 3 elders for you. Qin Shujian then introduced to Nyodali. This is Sage Fire of the Vermilion Bird Clan. This is Ji Zhou of the Thousand Pupil Clan. This is Wu Shan of the Mountain Breaking Clan. After a short introduction, Qin Shujian pointed at Nyodali and said to the 3 of them, this is the Demon Vein Master. In the future, the 3 of you will be the Demon Vein Elders. Demon Vein Master. Looking at the honest Nyodali in front of him, Sage Fire's mouth twitched slightly. If she wasn't wrong, Nyodali was only in the God Martial Arts realm. A God Martial Arts realm Vein Master, no matter how she looked at it, was strange. She was a mighty figure in the 8th level of the Heaven-Human realm. Did she have to lower her head to a small cultivator in the God Martial Arts realm? She met Qin Shujian's indifferent eyes. Sage Fire simply lowered his head and said, Greetings, Sect Master. Greetings, Sect Master. Wu Shan greets, Sect Master. Nyodali was stunned for a moment, but quickly reacted and said with a smile, hello? Qin Shujian suddenly arranged for 3 people to come over. He didn't resist at all. In Nyodali's opinion, this was not bad. There were a few more elders. In the future, he didn't have to worry about the Demon Vein Master. Thinking of this, the smile on Nyodali's face became even brighter. Qin Shujian didn't stay for long and said indifferently, if there's anything you don't understand, you can ask Elder Nyo for advice. He's the Demon Vein Master and also an inner sect elder of the Yuan sect. Since you guys are Demon Vein Elders, you can also be considered as outer sect elders of the sect. I've already said what I need to say. There's no need to repeat myself. I hope you'll take care of yourselves. After that, Qin Shujian was about to leave. However, before he left, he still activated his Dharma Eye to look at Nyodali's attributes. Shortly after, Qin Shujian's mouth twitched slightly. The first tier of the divine martial realm. This bastard had really broken through. While sleeping, he broke through from the spirit martial realm to the god martial realm. Such progress. Even Qin Shujian felt jealous when he saw this. However, he didn't stay for long. He took a step forward and disappeared from the demonic bull cave. When he was being stared at by the Dharma Eye, Nyodali's hair stood on end. It wasn't until Qin Shujian left that he felt the pressure disappear. Nyodali also let out a long sigh of relief. Sect Master is good at everything, but his eyes are too scary. Every time he gives people a lot of pressure. He wiped the invisible sweat on his forehead. Nyodali looked at Holy Fire and the other 2 and said casually, the 3 of you can find a place to stay in the Lion-Tiger Plain. Don't come to the demonic bull cave and disturb my sleep. Apart from that, restrain the beasts from leaving the Lion-Tiger Plain. There's nothing else. After that, Dali transformed into his original body and was about to lie on the ground and continue to sleep. Seeing this scene, the corners of Holy Fire and the others' mouths twitched again. When a god martial realm dared to be so presumptuous in front of a mighty figure, and they could all see that Dali really didn't seem to have any fear or scruples. They didn't know. This bull really didn't know their identities, or he really had nothing to fear. However, Holy Fire and the others also understood that they were living under someone else's roof, so it was better not to cause trouble. They just looked at Dali, who was about to fall asleep. A smile that he thought was charming appeared on Holy Fire's beautiful face. He said, "Sect Master, why don't there seem to be many demons in this demon vein? If there aren't any, then there aren't any. How can there be so many reasons?" Dali raised his eyes with difficulty and replied weakly. Holy Fire resisted the urge to hang him up and beat him. He said with a smile, "I think the Yuan sect should be a sect with a long history. Why don't I sense the aura of many celestial beings? Could it be that the experts in the sect are all in other places?" Hearing this, Dali opened his eyes completely and looked at Holy Fire suspiciously. He said in confusion, "Who told you that the Yuan sect has been around for a long time? Hasn't it only been 4 or 5 years? The Yuan sect had been around for a long time. It was the first time he had heard someone ask this. Anyone with a normal IQ knew that the Yuan sect had only been around for a few years. Dali also didn't understand. Why would Holy Fire ask such an idiotic question? Hearing this, Holy Fire's expression changed, and he said in disbelief, "You mean to say that the Yuan sect has only been around for a few years?" "Yes, a few years." At this point, Dali was also a little melancholy. He sighed and said, "A few years ago, I was still a free bull demon. Although I'm free now, when I saw the sect master, I was subdued by his bearing. At that time, I had seen many basic realm cultivators, but it was the first time I had seen someone with the bearing of the sect master. I didn't expect that after a few years, the change would be so great." A few years ago? Basic realm? Dali's words made Holy Fire and the other two completely confused. After a long time, Holy Fire came back to his senses and said with a puzzled expression, "What basic realm? How could the sect master be a basic realm cultivator a few years ago?" Yes, he really was a basic realm cultivator a few years ago. The Yuan sect didn't exist then. Dali shook his head helplessly at the thought of being subdued. However, he was quite satisfied with his current life. Then, he looked at the 3 dumbfounded people and said in a bad mood, "Don't ask so many questions. Go do what you need to do. I'm going to sleep." After speaking, Dali closed his eyes. After a few breaths, heavy snoring sounds could be heard. On the spot, Holy Fire and the other two couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. A few years ago, Qin Shujian was a basic realm cultivator? When this news came from Dali's mouth, the 3's first reaction was that he was lying to them. But on second thought, it didn't seem necessary. After all, they were all prisoners. What was the point of lying? For a moment, Holy Fire felt his heart pounding violently, and his thoughts were thrown into disarray. A few years. From the basic realm to the point where he could kill an emperor. This was simply a fantasy story. She didn't even know how she walked out of the demon ox cave. It wasn't until the sunlight outside shone into her eyes that she recovered from the shock. She turned her head to look. Ji Zhou and Wu Shan were beside her. On the other side, after leaving the lion-tiger plain, Qin Shujian was also thinking about the attributes he just saw. The last time he saw Dali, he was at the peak of the spiritual martial realm. Now, after a few months, he had already reached the first level of the divine martial realm. One had to know. The gap from the spiritual martial realm to the divine martial realm seemed to be only a small level. But the difficulty, it was no less than cultivating from the first level of the spiritual martial realm to the 10th level of the spiritual martial realm. Just like that, Dali still broke through. If Godslayer hadn't said with certainty that he wasn't the reincarnation of a strong person, Qin Shujian wouldn't have doubted that he was the reincarnation of a strong person. If he wasn't the reincarnation of a strong person, how did he improve his strength so quickly? If he swallowed treasures of heaven and earth, The lion-tiger plane at most produced some low-level spiritual materials. How could there be treasures of heaven and earth? Thinking of this, Qin Shujian couldn't help but ask, Senior, are you sure Nyodali isn't the reincarnation of a strong person? Godslayer didn't answer, because he was also a little confused. Qin Shujian could see through Nyodali's real situation. Godslayer could also sense the changes in the bull demon with his perception. In a few months, he broke through from the spiritual martial realm to the divine martial realm by sleeping. Such a leap. It also surprised Godslayer. After a long time, Godslayer said, he doesn't have the aura of scattered rules on his body. It's true that he can't be the reincarnation of a strong person, but he should have some strong bloodline. Strong bloodline? That's right. The direct bloodline left behind by any strong person has different miracles. Godslayer said, let's not talk about other things. Take you as an example. With your current strength, if you give birth to a descendant, I'm afraid he'll be in the spiritual martial realm at 3 years old and the divine martial realm at 7 years old. Even the probability of breaking through to the celestial being realm in the future will be much higher than that of other human beings. If you have the hope of breaking through to the nirvana realm in the future, or when you become an ancient true immortal, the power of your bloodline will become even stronger. At that time, the direct descendant you give birth to may be in the divine martial realm at birth. This is the effect of the strong bloodline. This explanation, Qin Shujian could also understand. Senior, are you saying that Nyodali is a direct descendant of some strong person? It's very possible. At the very least, his ancestor should have been a powerful existence. The power of his bloodline was already very thin, so it had always been hidden in his body. It was only by chance that this wisp of bloodline power was reactivated. This phenomenon was called atavism in ancient times. Any living creature whose bloodline has atavism will become stronger by leaps and bounds. Even if they don't need to cultivate on their own, they can slowly change themselves with the atavism bloodline. For someone like him who can break through to the divine martial realm by sleeping, his ancestor may be a true immortal. Godslayer said, his ancestor was a true immortal? Qin Shujian had never thought about this matter. However, according to Godslayer, this explanation also made sense. In this case, there was a reason why Nyodali's strength had grown so fast. Qin Shujian said, Senior, can you tell what bloodline he has? It's very difficult to tell. There have been so many true immortals since the birth of heaven and earth. If there really is a bloodline left behind, I can't see anything. And I think his bloodline hasn't been fully activated yet. If you really want to see some clues, you have to wait until the bloodline is fully activated. Hearing this, Qin Shujian didn't ask any more questions. Soon, he put the matter of Nyodali to the back of his mind. A demon in the divine martial realm. It wasn't enough to make Qin Shujian worry too much. With his current strength, unless there was an ancient true immortal in the world, he would be afraid. Or else, even if there was a nirvana realm cultivator in front of him, Qin Shujian wouldn't feel too much pressure. After returning to the main sect, Qin Shujian didn't go to the courtyard. Instead, he went straight to the forbidden area. In the forbidden area, the bow of heaven and earth was silently cultivating there. Qin Shujian didn't pay much attention to this longbow now. The power of the 5-seal Dao artifact was not bad, but for him now, it didn't make much difference. As for knowledge, Godslayer was much better than the bow of heaven and earth. In general, Qin Shujian didn't care much about this Dao artifact anymore. It seemed that the bow of heaven and earth knew that it was being despised. So it had been working hard to swallow the spiritual energy, trying to improve its strength. After entering the forbidden area, Qin Shujian took out the heaven list from his sea of consciousness. Then, he stepped into the space of the heaven list. Behind the original imprisonment of Fire Sage and the others, there was an even bigger cage. There, it was suppressing a corpse that emitted a terrifying pressure. Qiju Emperor. When he killed Qiju Emperor, Qin Shujian didn't have time to refine this corpse. As the emperor of the Qiju clan, although Qiju Emperor hadn't reached the Nirvana realm, he was still an expert at the peak of the 10th level of the celestial being realm. If he refined all of it, Qin Shujian had a hunch that he could increase his strength by a lot. The red lotus of purgation ignited. Qi Ju Emperor's corpse was directly engulfed by the flames, even though he had already died. As the emperor of the Qi Ju clan, Qi Ju Emperor's corpse still emitted a terrifying aura that was enough to suppress ordinary celestial beings. It took a full 2 hours. Qi Ju Emperor's corpse was completely refined. A huge red lotus. It lay there quietly. Qin Shujian held the red lotus with one hand, and an extremely pure energy burst out with a loud bang, converging into his body. Rumble. The star acupoints vibrated. The energy contained in a complete corpse of a 10th-level celestial being was not something that 1 or 2 drops of blood essence could compare to. Before this, the most powerful treasure that Qin Shujian had devoured was the blood essence of Star Sage. In terms of a single effect, Qi Ju Emperor's blood essence naturally couldn't compare to Star Sage's blood essence. But the difference was, what Qin Shujian was devouring now was the red lotus that contained all of Qi Ju Emperor's energy. It wasn't just the blood essence of an emperor. The energy contained in it. It was much more powerful than Star Sage's blood essence. He suppressed it and didn't open new acupoints. Instead, he controlled this energy and kept attacking the original acupoints, expanding them to an unimaginable extent. Half a day passed. Only then did Qin Shujian completely dissipate this energy. When he looked at his acupoints again, the 13,200 acupoints had already expanded by 3/10. This wasn't a single expansion. Instead, all his acupoints had expanded by 3/10. A surge of energy had already surged from Qin Shujian's body. The next moment, he walked out of the heaven list. Inside the forbidden grounds, Qin Shujian held the heaven list in his hand and looked at the information about himself on it. The smile on his face became more and more obvious. Name: Qin Shujian. Race: human. Age: 31. Realm: celestial realm. Level 5. Combat strength: 34. 100. Talent assessment: excellent. Refining Qi Ju Emperor has increased my combat strength by more than 3,000 points. It seems that the higher the combat strength, the more difficult it is to increase it. But with a combat strength of 34,000, it's not much worse than the Emperor God. In other words, if I were to fight the Emperor God now, I might have a chance to kill him. After all, the Emperor God is now in a seriously injured state. Qin Shujian was satisfied with his strength now. Combat strength of 34,100. In the human race, other than the human Emperor, who else could compare to him? It wasn't just the human race. Even in the 4 continents, there weren't many who could compare to him. Judging from the combat strength of the Emperor God and the Demon Emperor, such a top elite, their combat strength was around 30,000. His combat strength had risen to 34,000, which was considered to be among the top few. Qin Shujian believed. In the 4 continents, other than the emperors of the big clans, there was no one who could pose a threat to him. Cultivating step by step isn't as fast as taking shortcuts. Qin Shujian shook his head. If he could kill a few more emperors like Qi Ju Emperor, his strength would definitely reach the level of the Emperor God and the Demon Emperor. However, at this point, Qin Shujian had become a lot more cautious. The more important it was, the more cautious he was. Just like the zombie clan, because the zombies didn't have anything to rely on and could increase their strength by devouring flesh and blood, they were besieged by the big clans. If it were the other clans, if they knew that he could refine the elites of the other clans to increase his strength, the Demon Clan and the Immortal Clan would really attack him and swear to kill him. To this, Qin Shujian believed that the probability of this was very high. Originally, it was too reckless to expose the red lotus of purgation so easily. I didn't consider this level. However, the red lotus of purgation didn't use it much, so no one else should have noticed. In the future, it's better not to use it in front of others. I'll develop wretchedly and swallow a few more emperors of the other clans. When my strength reaches the level of invincibility, I won't have to hide it anymore. With this idea in mind, Qin Shujian didn't think about this anymore. No matter when, the red lotus of purgation was his trump card. Subsequently, Qin Shujian looked at his attributes again. After killing many experts, his life force had risen to more than 80 billion. Unfortunately, more than 80 billion life force was still not enough to upgrade the Guiyuan ancestral cannon. Qin Shujian could only suppress the idea of upgrading the technique. If the Guiyuan ancestral cannon could be upgraded, his strength would definitely increase a lot. But even if it couldn't be upgraded for the time being, with his current situation, his strength was enough to deal with many things. So, Qin Shujian wasn't too anxious to upgrade to the 6th level of the celestial being realm. Anyway, he couldn't upgrade it now. There would always be a chance to upgrade it in the future. If 80 billion didn't have a chance, then 100 billion. If 100 billion didn't work, then 200 billion. Anyway, there were many disciples in the origin sect. There were also many celestials in the 3 continents. Refining any powerful being would give him billions of life force sources. Right now, Qin Shujian felt like he was a level 1 smurf, holding a top-notch artifact and slaughtering wantonly in a level 100 monster area. The experience he harvested was enough to let his level rise. If I kill another 10 or 20 almighties, it might be enough to upgrade, he estimated in his mind. However, it wasn't that easy to kill 10 or 20 almighties. Although there were many experts in the 3 continents, almighties weren't really cabbages. Killing so many almighties these 2 times had already caused the strength of the various clans to suffer a great loss. If he really killed another 10 or 20 almighties, some clans should cry. After leaving the forbidden grounds, Qin Shujian returned to his residence to rest. In less than a day, Su Zhan had already come to visit again. The difference was, this time, the other party came with 2 things. One was a fragment of the immortal list of myriad clans, and the other was a fragment of the heavenly mirror. Looking at the stone tablet in front of him and the bronze mirror, Qin Shujian clicked his tongue. The imperial court really has a lot of treasures. They can even take out fragments of the immortal list of myriad clans and the heavenly mirror. The human emperor didn't really rob the heavenly court, did he? The stone tablet in front of him was no smaller than the stone tablet he made into the heavenly list. As for the bronze mirror fragment, it was the same. Qin Shujian originally said that he wanted the treasure fragment, but he didn't expect Su Zhan to really bring it over. Hearing this, Su Zhan said solemnly, hearing Sect Master Qin's request, His Majesty directly took out the remaining treasure fragments of the imperial court. It can be seen that he has high hopes for Sect Master Qin. Elder Su, you're exaggerating. Qin Shujian smiled faintly. He didn't believe a single word Su Zhan said. Qin Shujian was now sure. The imperial court still had the treasure fragments in their hands. The stone tablet and bronze mirror in front of him were not all of the great Zhao's inventory. It was just that although the treasure fragments were tempting, what really made people envious was the broken rules contained in the treasures. But on these 2 fragments, the broken rules had already dissipated. In Qin Shujian's opinion, someone should have used them. As for the person who used them, it was either the human emperor or Shiyang. It was very difficult for there to be a third party. After withdrawing his gaze from the supreme treasure fragment, Qin Shujian looked at Su Zhan and said solemnly, Elder Su Zhan, help me pass a message to the human sovereign. If I kill another sovereign, can I exchange it for a complete supreme treasure fragment? He emphasized the word complete a little more. Su Zhan frowned and said, Sect Master Qin's words are puzzling. Since it's all fragments, how can there be a complete statement? Elder Su, you just need to pass the message to the human emperor. Qin Shujian didn't explain too much. Hearing this, Su Zhan could only nod in agreement. Killing an emperor. He felt a little ridiculous when the other party said it so casually. But considering Qin Shujian's strength, Su Zhan was silent again. There was really no comparison between the 2 of them. The other party had already said that he could kill an emperor, but he was still at the 7th level of the celestial being. Thinking of this sad thing, Su Zhan simply went straight to the point. Everything is ready. We can start to build the human race monument. No problem. P.S. Please support the original version, Chidian Chinese Network, formerly known as From Knockoff NPC to Big Boss, now renamed as I'm Really Decent. Chapter 605. Forging the Human Clan's Monument. This was a big deal. For this matter, the imperial court had prepared for a long time. It was different from Qin Shujian's heavenly board. The human clan's monument was not forged in the 100,000 miles territory, but at the same time, it was also not forged in the Liang Mountain spirit domain. This was because once the divine armament was forged, the power of the lightning tribulation would be extremely terrifying once its level was high. Not to mention anything else. Just the lightning tribulation that the heavenly board encountered last time. If it was in the Yuan sect, there was almost no doubt. Liang Mountain would definitely turn into ashes under the lightning tribulation. Not just Liang Mountain. Even half of the Liang Mountain spirit domain would suffer. After all, the power of the lightning tribulation covered 10,000 miles. How big was the entire Liang Mountain spirit domain? At most, it was only tens of thousands of miles. In addition, the power of the lightning tribulation would overflow. To say that it covered half of the Liang Mountain spirit domain was an understatement. So, in order to avoid the effects of the lightning tribulation, the human clan's monument was finally forged in the Endless Mountain Range. In terms of vastness, the Endless Mountain Range was not much smaller than the Great Zhao territory. Moreover, in the Endless Mountain Range, other than the demon beasts, there were no civilians. Even if some cultivators entered this place to hunt demon beasts, they could directly expel them. In general, the Endless Mountain Range was the most suitable place to transcend the tribulation. On top of a slightly protruding hillside, 3 people stood there. One was Qin Shujian, the other was Su Zhan. The last one, it was the Fire Saint. Su Zhan looked at the good-looking Fire Saint and frowned. Sect Master Qin, the human clan's monument is of great importance. If we let a demon clan participate, will there really not be any problems? In his words, he did not hide his distrust of Fire Saint. Right now, the human clan and the demon clan had completely fallen out. Distrust was a very normal thing. Su Zhan also knew that there was still a demon vein in the Yuan sect, but it was said that the demon vein was only guarded by a weak bull demon. He didn't know either. When did Qin Shujian subdue a supreme expert-level demon saint? Finished. Su Zhan looked at Qin Shujian and continued, "It's not that I don't trust you, Master Qin. It's just that you're well aware of the enmity between the human clan and the demon clan. This matter, Pavilion Elder Su, don't worry. If you suspect someone, don't use them. If you use someone, don't doubt them. Since I dared to allow Holy Fire to participate, I can guarantee that there won't be any problems." Qin Shujian was not angry and explained, "Furthermore, Holy Fire has already submitted to me and is willing to leave the Fey race. We humans only have a grudge against the Fey race, but there are still many races that remain neutral or have a certain level of friendliness towards humans. If the Vermilion Bird tribe breaks away from the demon race, then there will naturally be no problem. Furthermore, the Vermilion Bird clan possesses an innate divine flame. This flame is the best flame for forging divine weapons. With the help of the innate divine flame, I might not be able to forge a 9-seal Dao artifact, but at least an 8-seal Dao artifact shouldn't be a problem. Innate divine fire. Hearing this name, Su Zhan's expression changed slightly. This was the legendary divine flame. He had also heard about it. What Su Zhan didn't know was that the innate divine fire was related to the Vermilion Bird tribe. Perhaps it was the 8-seal Dao artifact that moved him. Or perhaps it was because of his trust in Qin Shujian. Therefore, after hearing the explanation, Su Zhan nodded and said, "Since Sect Master Qin has said so, I naturally have no objections." Then, Su Zhan took out the fragments of the leaderboard of immortals, the Skyfall mirror fragment, and a bunch of other materials. Then, he took out a jade box. Inside this jade box is a drop of the former Fey Emperor's blood essence. It should be enough to forge a monument for the human race. He took the jade box. The corner of Qin Shujian's mouth twitched slightly. The blood essence of a Fey Emperor. He didn't need to think carefully to know that the Fey Emperor Su Zhan mentioned was not the current Fey Emperor of the Fey race, but the former Fey Emperor of the East Continent. All of a sudden, Qin Shujian felt a little sad about the Fey Emperor of the East Continent. How badly had he been defeated that the human emperor had extracted so much of his blood essence? It was no wonder. The Fey Emperor would be seriously injured to the point of no recovery. If so much blood essence was extracted, then it was normal for him to die. Perhaps. The human emperor still had the Fey emperor's blood essence. That might be the case. After putting away the things, Qin Shujian took out 100 spirit stones from his storage ring and threw them to holy fire. Keep these 100 spirit stones. If you can't sustain your vital essence, you can use them to recover yourself. Thank you, sect master. Holy fire put away the spirit stones with a confused look. With her cultivation base at the 8th level of the celestial being realm, how could there be a time when she couldn't sustain her vital essence? However, the other party was about to deliver the spirit stones to her door, and Holy Fire had no reason to refuse. 100 spirit stones. For her, it was also a considerable amount of wealth. After all, although the spiritual qi in the 3 continents was rich, there were also many cultivators, and spirit stones were also scarce. After Holy Fire put away the spirit stones, Qin Shujian's expression was solemn as he shouted, "Activate the Khanate divine fire and turn this place into a heaven and earth furnace." Hearing that, Holy Fire's expression was also solemn. Without any hesitation, she immediately transformed into the vermilion bird and opened her mouth to spit out a stream of orange flames. The flames had just appeared. A wave of scorching heat hit her in the face. The surrounding void distorted violently, and one could faintly see that it was burning. The Khanate divine fire is really extraordinary. Qin Shujian and Su Zhan both had this thought in their hearts at the same time. As top blacksmiths, they could naturally perceive how magical the flames that Holy Fire spat out were. Immediately after, the two of them looked at each other. Qin Shujian threw the fragment of the Myriad Clan's immortal list into the heaven and earth furnace first. Then, his vital essence had already turned into a sledgehammer to forge a divine weapon. The things that were used to forge the divine weapon were also particularly important. With his current strength, the sledgehammer condensed from his vital essence was already a top weapon. Elder Su Zhan, I'm the leader. You assist me from the side and keep up with the frequency of my hammering. If you and I work together, we can melt the stone tablet faster. Okay. Su Zhan also condensed the vital essence sledgehammer and nodded. In his heart, he was also a little excited. It had always been Su Zhan's dream to be able to work with Qin Shujian to forge a divine weapon. It was just that the first few times, Qin Shujian had always left him aside and completed everything by himself. This time, he finally had a chance to get involved. Immediately after, he saw Qin Shujian's hammer falling heavily on the stone tablet. The terrifying power spread. The stone tablet trembled slightly. The moment Qin Shujian retracted his hammer, Su Zhan's hammer also fell down. Coincidentally, this gap was perfectly connected. As a 7th-level celestial being, he was also a Grandmaster blacksmith. In terms of forging level, Su Zhan had also reached an extremely profound level. Although it was the first time he worked with Qin Shujian to forge a divine weapon. But after observing the previous few times, Su Zhan had already figured out some of Qin Shujian's frequencies. At this moment, when he struck, it was a perfect combination. Seeing this, Qin Shujian also felt relieved in his heart, and then forged the stone tablet in front of him with all his strength. Bang! Bang! An earth-shattering sound spread in all directions with the 3 of them as the center. However, Qin Shujian had already set up a defensive array in the 10,000-mile area. Even if someone heard the sound, there was no possibility of entering here. On the other side, Holy Fire was casting the innate divine fire while paying attention to the forging of the two. As a Vermilion Bird Clan's blacksmith, Holy Fire was also very passionate about forging. Unfortunately, the Vermilion Bird Clan's inheritance was almost cut off. Even with Holy Fire's painstaking study, he had not been able to reach the Grandmaster level so far. He could only wander around the Master level. Now he could get close. Witnessing 2 Grandmaster blacksmiths forging a divine weapon together, he had a different feeling in his heart. Innate divine fire. It was very hot. It had only been 3 days, but Su Zhan was already sweating profusely in front of this heat wave. Looking at Qin Shujian's words, his face was slightly flushed, but there was no sweat on it. It was only 3 days. The stone tablet had already turned red, and there were signs of melting. Prepare to merge with the heavenly mirror. Qin Shujian shouted in a low voice and immediately threw the fragments of the heavenly mirror into the heaven and earth furnace. Compared to the stone tablet, the material of the heavenly mirror was easier to refine. This was also why. The reason why Qin Shujian would first refine the stone tablet and not the heavenly mirror. As the heavenly mirror merged, the two hammered even more fiercely. Terrifying power spread out, shaking the void and distorting it violently. One day later, Qin Shujian shouted, "Increase the firepower." Hearing this, Holy Fire did not dare to be negligent and immediately activated the innate divine fire with all his strength. In an instant, the flames soared, and the heat waves surged, dyeing the sky a faint red. The temperature of the flames soared. The stone tablet and the bronze mirror that were about to melt. At this moment, they quietly merged together. Rumble. Just as the two merged, thunderclouds gathered in the sky. Dark red thunderclouds. It exuded an ominous aura. In the next moment, a terrifying thunder tribulation crashed down. Crack, thunder from a clear sky. The thunder tribulation shattered the void and directly bombarded the melted materials. Facing the falling thunder, the expressions of the three of them did not change at all. Holy Fire was still activating the innate divine fire. Qin Shujian and Su Zhan were still forging the materials in an orderly manner. The thunder tribulation struck 18 times in a row. Every half an hour, there would be a thunder tribulation. After all 18 thunder tribulations had struck, Qin Shujian began to integrate the 9th-tier materials in front of the innate divine fire. Although the 9th-tier materials were extremely hard, they could not resist for long. In just half a day, the materials had already entered the melting stage. Remove the impurities, Qin Shujian said, and the strength of the forging changed from strong to vibrating. Every hammer strike, the melted materials trembled violently. Wisps of gray impurities were squeezed out from inside and then burned to ashes by the innate divine fire. On the other side, Su Zhan followed suit and used the same method to remove the impurities. Until now, 5 days had passed. In these 5 days, Holy Fire did not stop activating the innate divine fire for a moment. However, she was an 8th-tier celestial being expert. Although activating the innate divine fire for 5 days consumed a lot of energy, it was still bearable for her foundation. As the 9th-tier materials were integrated, all the melted materials finally merged together. Qin Shujian's divine will spread out and directly condense the materials as if he was not afraid of the innate divine fire. Only the melted materials could be seen rolling. They had gradually become solid. In the sky, the thunder clouds gathered again. Integrate the first innate embryo, Qin Shujian ordered. Without any hesitation, Su Zhan immediately threw an innate embryo into the heaven and earth furnace. A day later, the thunder tribulation in the sky fell. Compared to the previous lightning tribulation, this one was much more powerful and vast. Its power had reached the level of threatening a celestial being. The thunder tribulation lasted for 3 days. When the time was up, the thunder clouds disappeared. Qin Shujian did not stop and shouted, "Integrate the second innate embryo." Hearing that, Su Zhan did as he was told. Now, this elder of the Imperial Observatory had completely transformed into Qin Shujian's servant. He did whatever the elder said. He was meticulous. There was no displeasure at all. As the second innate embryo was integrated, the monument gradually took shape as if it was a square stone monument. It was just that the monument's specific appearance could not be seen. The only thing that could be seen, it was a vague shape. In less than half a day, the thunder tribulation that had just retreated suddenly came again. Boom, boom. Qin Shujian's face was red because of the flames. He held the true essence sledgehammer in his right hand and forged the monument with all his strength, integrating the power of the falling thunder into the monument one by one. Integrate 2 innate embryos at the same time, Qin Shujian suddenly said. Su Zhan immediately integrated the 2 innate embryos. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. In this half a month, there were thunderbolts falling almost every once in a while. The duration of each thunderbolt was also increasing day by day. Until now, the monument. It was already vaguely visible in its complete form. Qin Shujian's aura was at its peak, and the power of the sledgehammer did not weaken at all. Looking at Su Zhan again, his face was much paler. Although he was a mighty figure in the 7th level of the celestial being realm, the continuous high-output forging for more than half a month had seriously depleted his true essence. If it was not for his strong foundation, Su Zhan had already been unable to hold on a few days ago. However, no matter how strong his foundation was, Su Zhan had reached his limit by now. Not long after, Su Zhan's face was pale, and he said loudly, "Sect Master Qin, my true essence can't hold on anymore. You step back and recover. Let me do it." Qin Shujian had already expected this. Hearing that, Su Zhan immediately took a step back and then retreated 10 miles away. He sat down cross-legged to recover his true essence. Qin Shujian's aura did not diminish, and the frequency of forging increased by a few degrees. When he was in the human territory, he had been forging the heaven list for a month without exhausting his true essence. Now, he was forging the human monument. First, there was holy fire to share some of the pressure, and then there was Su Zhan in front to share some of the pressure. So when it came to consumption, Qin Shujian really did not consume much true essence now. It was just that he did not consume much true essence. Holy fire, who was activating the innate divine fire, gradually turned pale. Until now, Holy Fire finally understood why Qin Shujian gave her the spirit stones. She did not really continue to use the innate divine fire for so long. She also did not expect that the consumption would be so great. She was not pretentious. Holy Fire took out 10 spirit stones and crushed them. A rich spirit chi surged into her body and replenished the true essence she had consumed. Immediately, Holy Fire's slightly pale face became rosy again. Increase the strength of the flame a little. Qin Shujian frowned. He felt the temperature of the innate divine fire around him was gradually decreasing. If this continued, the effect of the monument forging would be much worse. Hearing that, Holy Fire once again activated all her true essence and increased the temperature of the innate divine fire. At this moment, there were already 5 Dao seals on the monument, and the 6th Dao seal was slowly condensing. Boom! The thunderclouds in the sky condensed again. This time, the power of the thunder tribulation already made Holy Fire's heart palpitate. If not for the fact that Qin Shujian was still here, she would have the urge to turn around and retreat. However, Qin Shujian did not say anything, and Holy Fire did not dare to retreat. Therefore, Holy Fire could only pray that the thunder tribulation would be more accurate and not engulf her. Bang! The dark red thunder tribulation turned into a violent dragon and fell. Qin Shujian waved the sledgehammer in his hand and suppressed the violent dragon of thunder tribulation. The energy that overflowed all turned into nourishment for the monument, causing the 6th Dao seal to condense at a faster speed. Bang! 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 The thunder tribulation bombarded, and the sledgehammer forged. 7 days passed. The 6th Dao seal was officially formed. Immediately afterward, Qin Shujian did not order Su Zhan. Instead, he did it himself and integrated the remaining innate embryos into the monument. Buzz! A mysterious fluctuation spread out. On the monument that had just condensed the 6th Dao seal, there was suddenly endless Dao runes overflowing. In the blink of an eye, the 7th Dao seal was about to condense. After the lightning struck, the tribulation clouds above had not dissipated. They saw that the dark red tribulation clouds were dyed with a deathly black color. That destructive aura had reached a terrifying level. Sect Master, I'm afraid I can't withstand this thunder tribulation. Holy Fire's face was pale. She was only at the 8th level of the celestial being realm. It was true. She was only at the 8th level of the celestial being realm. The thunder tribulation condensed by the tribulation clouds above had at least reached the 10th level of the celestial being realm. In other words, it was no different from the emperors of some small clans. When the thunder tribulation fell, it was the same as the emperors releasing their power. She was so close to the monument and would definitely be affected. At the thought of this, Holy Fire's delicate body trembled slightly. She would die. If she was not careful, she would really die. Don't think that no one would die when forging a divine weapon. Once she encountered a powerful thunder tribulation and couldn't pass it, not only would the divine weapon be destroyed, but even the person who forged the divine weapon might be affected. She would die. That was normal. Qin Shujian didn't even look at her and said coldly, "Without my order, if you dare to take a step back, even if the thunder tribulation doesn't kill you, I'll take your life." Hearing that, Holy Fire's face turned pale again. She immediately gritted her teeth and activated her vital essence with all her might. If she retreated, she would definitely die. If she didn't, she might not die. The choice was already very obvious. Holy Fire could only bet that the thunder tribulation wouldn't affect her, or rather, it wouldn't affect too much. Before she could think much, the thunder tribulation clouds had already struck down with a loud bang. The destructive aura spread out. It covered an area with a radius of 10,000 miles. Near the center of the thunder tribulation, Holy Fire had goosebumps all over her body. Boom! The thick thunder tribulation bombarded the monument, and a terrifying power erupted in an instant. The overflowing thunder tribulation. It made Holy Fire feel a sharp pain in her body, and even her control of the innate divine fire almost became unstable. But soon, she endured the pain and maintained the stability of the innate divine fire. Boom! Boom! Thunder tribulation clouds fell one after another. In just half a day, Holy Fire had to crush another 10 spirit stones to replenish the vital essence in her body. Time passed little by little. Holy Fire had already consumed 50 to 60 spirit stones from start to finish. Until now, the 7th seal on the monument had been completely formed. When the monument was upgraded to a 7-seal Dao artifact, Qin Shujian suddenly used lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. His tens of thousands of feet tall body stood indomitable. The human monument also expanded in the wind, and the innate divine fire that covered the monument was completely destroyed by the innate divine fire. "Step aside." Qin Shujian's voice sounded in her ears. Holy Fire felt relieved. She didn't even think about it. She had already put away her vermilion bird true form and retreated into the distance. The original hillside. Now it had been completely flattened by the power of the thunder tribulation. Qin Shujian unleashed all his power and crazily forged the monument. Boom! The long river of laws loomed. In an instant, Qin Shujian borrowed the power of laws to raise his strength to a terrifying level again. Bang! Bang! 7 days passed. The 8th seal was already condensing. This time, the destructive thunder tribulation had condensed again, and it had completely reached the level of the Nirvana realm. From afar, one could only see that the black-red lightning had turned into a lightning prison, swallowing Qin Shujian and the monument. The aura of destruction was vast and mighty. Su Zhan and Holy Fire both retreated thousands of miles in unison, watching the tens of thousands of feet tall giant waving his hammer as if he was fighting against heaven and earth. Too powerful. Su Zhan took a deep breath, and his eyes were full of amazement. He originally thought that after he recovered his vital essence, he would have a chance to help. However, once he retreated, there would be no chance to intervene. And now, Su Zhan could only watch from the side. He didn't have a chance to take a good look at the heaven list last time. This time, he could take a good look at it. With Su Zhan's eyesight, he could naturally see that the monument was gradually approaching perfection, and the 8th seal was condensing. As long as there were no accidents, this 8-seal Dao artifact was considered a success. In the Imperial City, the human emperor looked at the sky with his hands behind his back, where the human clan's destiny was violently surging and jumping, as if something great was happening. The human clan's destiny is already increasing, and the monument is about to be completed. To be able to cause the human clan's destiny to fluctuate, it should be another 8-seal Dao artifact. The human emperor smiled faintly. 8-seal Dao artifact. It could increase the human clan's destiny by a lot. The stronger the human clan's destiny, the more powerhouses it could give birth to. Immediately, the human emperor's gaze shifted again. It was also surging with destiny. However, the difference was that this surge of providence was slightly smaller than the providence of the human race. That was the destiny of the great Zhao dynasty. Chapter 606. On the surface, the Great Zhao had already unified the human race. But that was not the case. The fate of the human race was still divided. The bigger part was the fate of the Great Zhao, while the smaller part was the fate of the major sects and forces of the cultivation world. The fate of the two combined. It was the complete fate of the human race. It was not that the human emperor did not want to integrate the cultivation world, but it was not easy to do so. In the past, it was fine. Now, there was one more person in the cultivation world, Qin Shujian. If he wanted to integrate the fate of the human race, it was equivalent to making the cultivation world submit to the Great Zhao. In this way, if it was not handled well, it would cause unrest in the human race. The fate of the human race. The human emperor slowly retracted his gaze and shook his head slightly. It was naturally good to integrate the human race. But now, it was impossible. If he really did that, he might break off relations with the cultivation world. At the moment, the four continents were not stable, and the great calamity of the demon abyss was imminent. There was no need to cause unrest in the human race at this time. In the endless mountain range, for more than a month, this place was covered by the power of the Thunder Prison. The aura of destruction could be sensed from within a radius of 100,000 miles. Monsters were born to seek fortune and avoid calamity. After sensing such a threat, they naturally fled in all directions. As for the cultivators who entered the endless mountain range, all of them tactfully avoided it. In Liangshan City, during this period of time, it had attracted many people. Qin Shujian did not deliberately hide the fact that he was forging the human race monument. Some people also knew about this news. But this time, Qin Shujian did not open up the opportunity to observe, which made some people feel regretful. But regretful was regretful. Although they could not witness it with their own eyes, it was not a bad thing to get closer and feel the power of the thunder tribulation. The last time Sect Master Qin forged the divine weapon, the power it emitted was as vast as this time. It seems that the human race will have another supreme treasure. An 8-seal Dao artifact. It has been many years since an 8-seal Dao artifact appeared in the human race. In such a short time, 2 8-seal Dao artifacts were born in succession. The heavens are really protecting the human race. Yes, the heavens are protecting the human race. Some experts felt the power of the thunder tribulation and also sighed with emotion. Now was different from the past. The 4 continents were connected. They also understood how difficult the human race's situation was. They were able to maintain the current situation. They relied on the Runhuang and a few other top powerhouses. Once something happened to these people, the human race would no longer be able to resist the other races. Regarding this, they were also very clear in their hearts. The human race was weak. This was an undeniable fact. Now that the divine weapon had been born, it would strengthen the foundation of the human race. For these people, it would also increase their confidence. In the endless mountain range, as the last thunder tribulation fell, a dazzling golden light dispelled the black and red tribulation clouds. Above the stone-like steel, boundless golden light burst forth. After a long time, the golden light receded. The 8 Taoist seals concealed themselves and transformed into the word human, which was engraved on the topmost part of the stone tablet. Monument of the human race. Thus, the forging was successful. He retracted his lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. Qin Shujian grabbed the stone tablet that had shrunk to about 10 feet in size. He looked at the approaching Su Zhan and said with a faint smile, "Fortunately, I didn't fail you. The human race's monument has been completed." While speaking, he had already handed the stone tablet over. This was something that belonged to the imperial court. Naturally, it had to be handed over to someone from the imperial court. Seeing this, Su Zhan excitedly took the stone tablet and immediately said sincerely, "Sect Master Qin has contributed greatly to the successful casting of the monument. This old man will definitely report this matter to His Majesty." "You're too polite." The casting of the monument was originally agreed upon in advance. Qin Shujian shook his head slightly. Immediately, he looked at holy fire and then said with a smile, "But this time I consumed 100 spirit stones. I hope the imperial court can reimburse me for this matter." "Of course. When this old man returns to the central province, it won't be long before the spirit stones are delivered. That's good. Subsequently, Su Zhan firmly grasped the stone tablet, looked at Qin Shujian and said, "The monument is of great importance. This old man needs to bring it to the central province prefecture immediately. I won't stay long. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely visit." Elder Su Zhan, take care. Goodbye. Su Zhan cupped his hands and immediately turned to leave. After Su Zhan left, only then did Holy Fire walk up to Qin Shujian. "Sect Master, well, how many spirit stones do you have left?" "There are 30 spirit stones left. Return them all." Qin Shujian stretched out his hand and said indifferently. Seeing this, Holy Fire was slightly taken aback. Then, he handed over all the remaining spirit stones. After putting away the spirit stones, Qin Shujian said, "You have some credit for this matter. If the imperial court rewards you, I will ask someone to bring some to you." "No need. It is my honor to be able to share the burden of the sect master. Forget it if you don't want it. Go back." Qin Shujian did not talk nonsense with Holy Fire. If there were benefits, he would not want it. There was obviously something wrong with the other party's brain. But in his opinion, it was best if he did not want it. He would save some. Soon, the two left the endless mountains. Holy Fire returned to the Lion-Tiger Plain consciously, while Qin Shujian returned to the main sect. At this time, the Yuan sect was also in full swing during this period of time. All the disciples were full of enthusiasm. There was no other reason. It was all due to the Heaven List. It had been 2 months since the Heaven List was established. During this period of time, almost every day, there were people challenging the experts on the Heaven List. There were winners and losers. The winners were naturally ecstatic, and the losers were not discouraged. In the few days after returning to the main sect, Qin Shujian was looking at the changes on the Heaven List. It was only 2 or 3 days. The rankings on the Heaven List had been rotated many times. Among them, the biggest changes were the rankings of the basic martial arts realm and the real martial arts realm. In comparison, the spiritual martial arts realm was much calmer. It is much more convenient to find talented disciples with the Heaven List. Looking at the Heaven List, Qin Shujian thought in his heart. There was a talent evaluation on the list. It wasn't difficult to find talented disciples. Unfortunately, most of the disciples were blank in the talent evaluation. What was blank? It was not that they were too strong to be evaluated, but that they were too weak to be on the list. But for these things, Qin Shujian did not tell the public. This led to a lot of people having a lot of doubts about the talent evaluation. Well, mediocre talent is not bad. Glancing at the list, Qin Shujian suddenly saw a familiar name, and then paused on it. Name, Ningbo race, human age, 22 cultivation, 10th level of the basic martial arts realm combat strength, talent evaluation. Mediocre. What was mediocre? Those who could be evaluated as mediocre by the Heaven List had a high probability of breaking through to the celestial being realm in the future. Moreover, in Qin Shujian's view, Ningbo's talent should not be as simple as mediocre. According to the criteria of talent evaluation, it is composed of age, cultivation, combat strength, and race. In this way, some people who started cultivation late will be at a disadvantage in the talent evaluation. Ningbo started cultivation less than a year ago, so at this age, he has just reached the 10th level of the basic martial arts realm. But even so, the Heaven List still gave him a mediocre evaluation. In this case, after a long time, the gap between his cultivation and his peers will be narrowed, and this talent may transform again. Mediocre talent is very likely to transform into superior talent. Qin Shujian's mind turned. Superior talent. In the future, there was a chance to grow to the Nirvana realm, not to mention other things. The Demon Emperor was just a superior talent. Although talent did not completely represent everything, it could also prove a lot of things. Thinking of this, Qin Shujian smiled slightly. In this case, as long as Ningbo does not fall, the Yuan sect will have an almighty above the 7th level of the celestial being realm in the future, and even a supreme expert of the Nirvana realm. At that time, it was not wrong to accept him into the sect. This kind of cultivator with extraordinary luck, it is not strange for his talent to be strong. He paused on Ningbo's name for a while. Qin Shujian looked at the other lists. Inside the basic martial arts realm, only Ningbo had mediocre talent, and no one else. To this, Qin Shujian was not too regretful. The last batch of disciples had just been recruited not long ago, and there might be some people who had not shown their talent yet. If he waited for a while longer, he might be able to reap a different harvest. Subsequently, Qin Shujian looked at the list of the real martial arts realm. At a glance, Qin Shujian was stunned. Mediocre. Most of them were mediocre. Since when did my sect have so many future celestial beings? Qin Shujian almost thought that he had seen wrongly. After looking carefully, his expression became strange. I was wondering why there were so many disciples with the celestial being talent. It turns out that 99% of them are players. It is not doubtful that this group of cheaters can break through to the celestial being realm in the future. Could the players break through to the celestial being realm in the future? That was for sure. As a foreign cheater, Qin Shujian was 100% sure that the players would not be stuck at the shackles of the celestial being realm. As long as enough experience was given, the realm of the players could rise slowly. However, it was hard to say how much experience this would require. The Heaven List evaluation of the player's talent is not too accurate. Judging from the growth of the players, as long as they can develop steadily, the celestial being realm will not be the end. There might even be the possibility of becoming a true immortal in the future. Even if it will take a long time, as long as there is enough time, it might not be a problem. Qin Shujian had never denied the potential of the players. This group of undying cheaters, the height of their growth was definitely beyond the expectations of others. Soon, Qin Shujian came back to his senses. In front of the red lotus of purgation, the players seemed to be unable to achieve immortality. But this was not the point. The point was, the potential of the players was great. Only the local disciples can be truly evaluated by the Heaven List. As for those players, they can be ignored. Qin Shujian shook his head. In the sea of consciousness, Godslayer also saw the information on the Heaven List and couldn't help but say in surprise, "Kid, you're good. I didn't expect that the human race could still have so many future celestial beings when they are so weak. If you cultivate them well, there might be a large number of celestial beings." Godslayer had not seen much of the world after all. He didn't know much about the difference between the players and the local disciples. In his opinion, there was no difference between the players and the human race. Anyway, they all looked the same. Maybe they were of the same origin as the human race. Hearing this, Qin Shujian said, "In ancient times, did the otherworldly beings descend?" "No," Godslayer answered straightforwardly. "It's the first time I've seen the otherworldly beings. To be honest, if it weren't for the fact that they didn't have the aura of the demon abyss, I would have thought that they were of the same origin as the demons. From the current situation, the otherworldly beings may be of the same origin as the human race. After all, their appearance and bloodline are very similar. As for why the otherworldly beings can be immortal, it may involve something deeper." "Something deeper?" Qin Shujian looked puzzled. Godslayer said, "In ancient times, the Emperor of Heaven and the other emperors also thought about investigating the reason why the demons were immortal, but in the end, they didn't find anything. They just judged from it. The existence of the demonic abyss and the evil demons involved something even deeper. And the so-called deeper is the power above the rules. It was also from this that the Emperor of Heaven inferred that there should be other realms above the true immortal. If I can reach a deeper level, I might be able to truly slay the evil spirit." The god-slaying saber explained. Qin Shujian pondered for a moment. Immediately, Godslayer said, "Your flame can completely kill the demons. I suspect that it involves that level. Maybe this world really gave birth to a master of that level." In his view, Qin Shujian's cultivation method must have come from the inheritance of a master, since the cultivation method left by that master could really destroy the demons. Then such an existence, like the Emperor of Heaven and the other emperors said, involved a deeper level, an existence beyond the true immortal. This was not a wild guess. Originally, Godslayer didn't think too much about these things. Because millions of years had passed, too many memories were sealed in the deepest part of his mind. Only when he saw certain things would the relevant memories be triggered. Or else, Godslayer also found it hard to remember how much he knew. The red lotus of purgation is an existence above the rules? If that's the case, the Guiyuan ancestral canon should be the same. No, whether it's the Guiyuan ancestral canon or the red lotus of purgation, they are actually products born from the system. In other words, the one who is really above the rules should be the system. Qin Shujian sat on the stone bench, holding the celestial list in his hand, but his mind had drifted to another place. Regarding the existence of the system, he had never thought too much about it. In the beginning, Qin Shujian thought that this was a game world and he was just an NPC in the game. Later, he found that this world was very real. Immediately, he overturned his original guess and thought that this should be a real world. But if it was a real world, then how would the players explain it? There were a lot of things involved, and even Qin Shujian found it difficult to find out the truth. However, the God-slaying saber's words caught Qin Shujian off guard. From the reactions of others, the system should be equivalent to the heavenly axiom of this world. But the difference is that others only have a very vague idea of the system's existence. So far, I haven't found anyone who can have a deeper connection with the system. The people here can kill other players to level up, but there is a level limit. I don't have this limit. Whether it is a low-level player or a high-level player, as long as I kill them, I can get the source of life. From this point of view, if the system is also divided into authorities, my authority should be higher than others. Qin Shujian's expression changed. These were just his own guesses. But to say why his authority was higher than others, and why he came to this world, it was difficult to explain the situation. But there was one point. Qin Shujian was sure. There was definitely something on him that was different from others. As for what was different, that was hard to say. Above the rules, what is that? The rules? Or the Tao? Qin Shujian used his lack of knowledge to guess what was above the rules. But soon, he banished this thought from his mind. No matter what was above the rules, it was not that important. The name, it was just a pronoun. Just like the rules, what you liked could be called the rules, and what you didn't like could be called the Tao. What really concerned Qin Shujian, it was the truth that he wanted to know. No one wanted to be confused all the time. There was only one reason why they were willing to be confused, and that was because they didn't have enough strength to find out the truth. Qin Shujian didn't have this strength now, but from the words of the Godslayer, he found this hope. If I want to find out the essence of the world, or the reason why I came here, I should be able to do it when I grow above the rules. But if the system is a product above the rules, then how was it born? Was it born naturally, or was it opened by the strong? It can't be that Pangu really opened the sky, but it's hard to say. More importantly, if the system is above the rules, can it really raise me to the same level as myself? Qin Shujian was most concerned about this question. If the system itself had an upper limit, then even if he had the system, he would reach an upper limit in the future. After all, he was a powerful existence. It was also difficult to raise a person to the same level as himself. Take Qin Shujian, for example. With his current strength and means, he could forcibly create an ordinary celestial being, but to say that he could create an expert like himself, there was no way to do it. In the sea of consciousness, Godslayer saw that Qin Shujian was silent, and he didn't speak to disturb him. Zhu Bing was very clear about this. Qin Shujian also had a big secret, a secret realm that was related to the rules. Regarding this matter, the God-slaying saber was both surprised and relieved. The son of fate. It was normal for one to encounter extraordinary opportunities. Not to mention Qin Shujian, the ancient emperors and the emperor of heaven might have had the opportunity to touch the rules. Or else, how could they conclude that there were other things above the rules? So the exploration was just perfunctory to outsiders. There were some things that the emperor of heaven didn't say. Godslayer also had his own thoughts. However, he had never thought of investigating the secrets of the sovereign celestial emperors. There were many things. Don't know too much about what you shouldn't know. When you really want to know, you will naturally know. In this regard, Godslayer was very Buddhist, but it was normal. What Zhu Bing had experienced was not as simple as a million years. From ancient times to the present, who knew how many years had passed? In the long years, it was enough to change everything. For Godslayer, he had no other thoughts now. He just wanted to follow Qin Shujian with peace of mind and revitalize the human race. As for other things, he had no other thoughts. At that time, it seemed that Emperor Xia said that he wanted me to revitalize the human race after the Great Calamity. Godslayer was suddenly a little confused. After trying hard to recall, he was sure who had said those words to him. Then who was the last person who told me to revitalize the human race? Godslayer was in a mess. Then, he expelled this messy thought again. I don't want to think about it. It's so troublesome. No, I have to ask this kid to give me something to do when he's about to die. Otherwise, I'll be bored to death. Sigh, how lonely it is to have no goals in life. Godslayer sighed to himself. On the other side, Qin Shujian also recovered from his contemplation. It was useless to think so much now. With his cultivation level of the 5th level of the celestial being, it was pointless to think about the so-called rules. Soon, he withdrew from this state and set his eyes on the heaven list again. The difference was, Qin Shujian had already memorized the words above the rules. There would be a chance in the future. He would definitely find out the truth. However, just when Qin Shujian was about to check the heaven list, he noticed that the Godslayer in his sea of consciousness was a little different. It had a little more vicissitude. Qin Shujian found it a little ridiculous to see the vicissitudes of life on a stone knife. But Zhu Bing was different after all. To a certain extent, Zhu Bing was similar to a living creature. Then, with a stir of his mind, Qin Shujian released the Godslayer from his sea of consciousness. In the courtyard, the stone knife seemed to be startled by the sudden change. The knife trembled slightly. Why did you release me out of nowhere? I saw that you were bored in the sea of consciousness, so I let you out to breathe some fresh air. Qin Shujian said with a faint smile. Godslayer was speechless. If you want to mock me, just say it. You let a stone knife breathe fresh air? Do you want to fight? Qin Shujian was also speechless. It was just a casual sentence, but the Godslayer wanted to find fault with it. If it weren't for the pity of the other party just now, he didn't bother to pay attention to it. But since he had released it, it wasn't good to take it back without saying a word. Besides, the other party was just a stone knife. There was no need to be angry with a stone. Suddenly, something occurred to him. Qin Shujian showed a faint smile on his face and immediately said, I wonder if you have heard of a person's name? Who? Panga. P.S. I recommend a book, Invincible Master of the Fort. This is a brother of the Haifeng's Hai. The fierce man is wandering in Jianghu. Chapter 607. After that, the stone saber trembled violently. At this moment, Qin Shujian even saw fear in the Godslayer. Boy, what did you just say? The Godslayer's voice trembled a little. Qin Shujian was about to say, Pan, don't say it, don't say it. The Godslayer hurriedly stopped the latter word. Seeing this, Qin Shujian's expression was both suspicious and pleasantly surprised. Senior, have you heard of this name? The name Pangu. He had said it to many people. However, no one had any reaction when they heard this name. Just like the Godslayer, it was the first time that Qin Shujian had seen it. At this moment, the stone saber trembled and transformed into the appearance of a young man. The Godslayer had not transformed many times. The last time was when he saw the fragment of the list of immortals of myriad clans. This was the second time. Seeing the Godslayer's transformation, Qin Shujian was also stunned for a moment. Senior? The Godslayer did not answer. Instead, he came to Qin Shujian and sat down in front of Qin Shujian. His handsome face was extremely dignified. At first, I doubted whether you had really come into contact with the existence above the rules, but now I have no doubts. What you just said should be the name of a supreme expert. Qin Shujian nodded and said, Senior, have you heard of it? No, what you said can't be heard or heard. I can't hear what you said clearly, but the two words you said have already frightened my body. The Godslayer shook his head and said, but his face was as dignified as ever. With an honorific name. It made Zhu Bing's body tremble. Such a power. It made the Godslayer instantly associate it with the rules. Although I have never come into contact with the existence above the rules, only the existence above the rules can make Zhu Bing unable to hear or hear. Pan, I've said those two words to many people, but none of them reacted as strongly as Senior. Qin Shujian wanted to say Pangu, but when he saw the frightened look on Godslayer's face, he changed his mind. Originally, Qin Shujian thought that Godslayer knew something. In the end, the other party didn't know anything either. But he didn't know. Godslayer's reaction was too strong. Godslayer's expression became strange when he heard that. He said gloomily, you won't feel anything until you reach a certain level of cultivation. Only when you truly grasp the laws will you truly understand how terrifying they are. Just what you said just now is enough to shake the rules. Tremor of the laws? Qin Shujian raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, Senior, are you saying that those two words are enough to shake the laws? Why didn't he know that the two words Pangu had such power? Godslayer said, of course. Grasping the rules and not grasping the rules are two different concepts. Your two words are enough to shake the rules for an existence who has grasped the rules. In that case, if I shout at a true immortal, won't he be distracted? Something like that. The god-slaying saber nodded. Then, he saw Qin Shujian's smiling face and warned him solemnly. Don't think that this is a method to deal with a true immortal. Let me tell you, even if a true immortal is distracted for a moment, with your current strength, you may not be able to kill him. And that existence above the rules may not necessarily fall. A true immortal's lifespan is 129,600 years. But no one can be sure whether the existence above the rules has reached the level of immortality. Every time you call out the name of such an existence, the other party will sense it. If you use it too many times, such an existence may be directly attracted to you. It's good if it's a friend and not an enemy, but if it's an enemy and not a friend, haha. In the end, the god-slaying saber chuckled. His meaning was clear. If Pangu was one of his own people, attracting him would naturally bring great benefits. But if it was an enemy, then it would be suicidal. Such an unknown powerhouse. Godslayer didn't dare to take the risk. He didn't want Qin Shujian to take the risk either. If he really did provoke an existence above the rules, perhaps the entire human race would be wiped out by the other party. Hearing this, Qin Shujian also fell silent. After a moment, he said, Senior, can you be sure that he's not dead yet? I don't know. Godslayer shook his head and said, he may or may not be dead, but regardless of whether he's dead or not, you don't have to take the risk. But I'll ask you one more thing. Does the inheritance you have come from that existence? If so, you and he can be considered to have a master-disciple inheritance. Even if you lure him here, there's a high probability that he won't attack you. No. Qin Shujian shook his head. What did the system have to do with Pangu? However, maybe it was really related. But the word Pangu was just casually mentioned by him. There was no such thing as inheritance at all. Just as Godslayer said, if Pangu was one of their own, it would be fine. If he was an enemy, all the powerhouses of the human race would have to kneel when he called him over. He would have to kneel. Even the human emperor would have to kneel. Above the rules, killing a true immortal would be as easy as eating and drinking. So, Qin Shujian himself didn't dare to take the risk. Godslayer said, in that case, you don't have to take the risk. And you won't think that what I said is false. In fact, there's no need for an existence above the rules. Just the mere mention of a true immortal expert's name would cause them to feel something. Just like your current realm, if someone secretly wants to scheme against you, you will also feel it in your heart. The more powerful the existence, the sharper the perception. Even a true immortal can do this. The existence above the rules will only be more terrifying. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. Qin Shujian took a deep breath and cupped his hands solemnly. He finally understood. The word Pangu could only be used as a trump card. When did it become a trump card? This ability could only be used when facing an unstoppable enemy or when the human race was at a critical moment of life and death. When that time came, even if Pangu was lured over, there would be no problem. No big deal. Everyone would die together. However, in Qin Shujian's view, Pengu might have existed, but he might have died. Above the rules. Could one live forever? He wasn't sure. After suppressing this thought, Qin Shujian decided not to think too much about it. On the other side, Godslayer also canceled the young man he transformed into and returned to the appearance of a stone saber. It seemed that he was more used to his current appearance. Seeing this, Qin Shujian didn't say anything, but focused his attention on the heaven list. There was nothing to see in the basic realm. Only Ningbo could be seen. As for the players, there were no basic realm players. They were all in the real martial realm. However, in the real martial realm list, apart from the players, Qin Shujian also saw two names with mediocre ratings. One was Linjia. The other was Lindaojian. He didn't have any impression of Linjia, but the name Lindaojian reminded Qin Shujian of something. He seems to be a former disciple of the Coiling Stone sect. As the leader of the Coiling Stone sect to surrender, he was extremely loyal. Qin Shujian wouldn't forget him easily. However, he didn't expect that. Lindaojian's talent would be so high. Mediocre talent. He was almost at the top of the human race. Looking at the names on the list, Qin Shujian smiled faintly. If the Coiling Stone sect doesn't alienate the other party and doesn't provoke me, this sect might give birth to a heaven-being expert in the future. Then, it will rise from a true dominion sect to a top-notch sect. Unfortunately, he was one step behind. The Coiling Stone sect couldn't enjoy such good fortune. It could be seen that the Coiling Stone sect's providence was too shallow and didn't qualify to have such a genius. Only the Origin sect's providence was at its peak. Only then could it accept all the rivers and recruit all the heroes in the world. After memorizing these two names, Qin Shujian looked at the list of the Spirit Martial Realm. At this moment, the people on the list of the Spirit Martial Realm were all mediocre. Qin Shujian didn't find it too strange. It was still the same sentence. The evaluation of talent was based on the comprehensive data from all aspects. The players were needless to say. Mediocre talent was for sure. As for the other Spirit Martial Realm people in the Origin sect, to be honest, they had all been promoted by the sect, and their realms had directly increased. This way, as a result, many people were young, but their cultivation was not bad at all. The evaluation of mediocre talent was created just like that. This kind of talent evaluation was very fake. Perhaps many of them didn't have the chance to step into the Heaven Man realm. Therefore, the specific situation, it still depended on their future growth. Qin Shujian looked away from the list of the Spirit Martial Realm and landed on the list of the God Martial Realm. The list of the God Martial Realm was the same as the Heaven Man list. There were very few people on it. After all, there were only 3 people on it. Of the 3 people, 2 had a mediocre evaluation. One was Gong Mingze. The other was Xiang Haogan. Those who could grow to the God Martial Realm, as long as their lifespan was not exhausted, would have a chance to step into the Heaven Man realm in the future. In addition, Xiang Haogan and Gong Mingze were not very old. It was natural for them to get a mediocre evaluation. In the end, Qin Shujian saw the Heaven Man list. Mu Yang's talent evaluation also appeared in front of him. Genius. Qin Shujian nodded in satisfaction. As expected, Mu Yang, who had the heart of the half-immortal wood spirit, had an extremely high talent evaluation in front of the heaven list. Moreover, there was no problem with this evaluation. He had obtained the heart of the half-immortal wood spirit. Mu Yang's foundation was very strong. In the future, it was 100% certain that he would reach the 7th level of the Heaven Man realm. Even the 10th level of the Heaven Man realm, or even the Nirvana realm had a high probability. Even becoming an immortal was not impossible. The reason why the half-immortal of the Eldar condensed the heart of the wood spirit was because he had no hope of becoming an immortal. When he was about to die, he gathered all his blessings for his descendants, hoping that one of the Eldar could carry the heart of the wood spirit and reach the peak of the realm that no one had ever set foot on before. Therefore, to a certain extent, the heart of the wood spirit could be considered a treasure that could change one's aptitude. After looking through the heaven leaderboard in its entirety, Qin Shujian put it away. The previous period of time when he was forging the 8-seal Dao artifact had consumed a lot of his energy. In addition to the time when he was casting the monument, he had some insights in forging. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qin Shujian simply went into a short seclusion to digest it. Main sect, where the outer sect disciples were. Compared to the previous time when almost the entire outer sect was packed, there were very few disciples left in the outer sect, because most of the disciples had been transferred to various branches. Those who could still stay in the main sect now had connections behind them. Similarly, with fewer outer sect disciples, the duty hall was also much more free. He had successfully broken through to Bai Chong and was leisurely sitting in the inner hall drinking tea. During this period of time, the spirit energy in the main sect had increased a lot. Even if he occasionally cultivated, it was much better than before. Tisk, fortunately, I was smart and spent a lot of contribution points in exchange for a place to stay in the sect. Otherwise, if I were to be transferred to other branches like the other fools, how could I have the leisure now? Bai Chong shook his head as he thought about the people who worked with him. They were currently living a miserable life in the other branch factions. Bai Chong wore a relaxed expression on his face. One had to be smarter, whether it was in terms of dealing with people or cultivation. Too stupid. After all, it was not a good thing. All of a sudden, Bai Chang's smile faded a little. He put down the teacup in his hand and turned his head to look outside the inner hall. There was a young man walking over. "Greetings, Deacon Bai. Ningbo, why are you free today?" Bai Chong raised his eyebrows. He had always thought highly of Ningbo. Later, Ningbo was on the heaven list. Bai Chong had never thought that Ningbo's talent would be mediocre. Even if he was like the others and didn't show his talent, it was still a bit unsightly to show his mediocre talent. However, he had already invested in Ningbo. In addition, the other party was personally arranged by Qin Shujian. Even if he didn't believe in his own judgment, Bai Chong also believed in the sect master's judgment. It was also because of this. Although he felt sorry for Ningbo, his attitude towards him was still the same. Ningbo cupped his hands and said, "Deacon Bai should also know that in less than a month, it will be the sect disciple competition. Whether I can get the first place depends on this. You are now the first in the basic realm. There shouldn't be a problem." Bai Chong took a sip of tea and motioned him to sit down before saying with a faint smile, "Speaking of which, although Ningbo's talent was mediocre, his strength was not bad. After the heaven list appeared, he directly appeared in the first place in the basic realm." After sitting down, hearing Bai Chang's words, Ningbo shook his head and said with a sigh, "So what if I'm the first in the basic realm on the heaven list? It's just because I'm in the main sect that others didn't have a chance to challenge me." Before the heaven list also appeared, even the first in the real martial realm and the first in the spiritual martial realm were beaten down. In the past, Ningbo still had a lot of confidence. However, after seeing his own talent, to be honest, Ningbo also suffered a big blow. He couldn't believe it. He was just a mediocre talent. Ningbo didn't know why others didn't believe in talent. But he didn't care about these things. What really made Ningbo care? Only his own change. Therefore, he could only be regarded as mediocre on the heaven list. This was a big blow. Fortunately, Ningbo had a good temperament. He didn't collapse because of this setback. Or else, if it were others, they might have lost their minds and stopped advancing. In the past, you had a lot of confidence and vitality, but now you lack some flavor. Bai Chong looked at him and said calmly, "Is it because of your talent that you're in such a state?" Ningbo wanted to shake his head and deny it. But looking at Bai Chang's eyes, he finally nodded and admitted, "Yes." Sure enough, Bai Chong understood and then said with disappointment, "You have to understand that talent is nothing. No matter how strong the heaven list is, it's just a Taoist instrument. The only one who really understands oneself is yourself. You only spent less than a year to reach the limit of the basic realm from an ordinary person who didn't touch on cultivation. How can your talent be ordinary? In my opinion, there's a big probability that the heaven list is wrong. Many people on it don't even show their talent. Maybe they can't even be mediocre. That's not necessarily the case. Moreover, talent can't decide everything. Since the sect leader promised you that as long as you can get first place in the competition and reach the real martial arts realm within a year, he will take you as his disciple. This is your chance. So what if your talent is strong? So what if your talent is poor? As long as you can become the sect leader's disciple, you will definitely soar. And since the sect leader is willing to give you this chance, he must have taken a fancy to your talent. Why do you have to doubt yourself? In order to restore Ningbo's confidence, Bai Chong was just spouting nonsense. He didn't believe these words at all, but in order to make Ningbo believe, he still pretended to be serious. Ningbo was deep in thought. He also felt that Bai Chang's words made a lot of sense. Instead of believing in the heaven list, it was better to believe in himself and the sect leader. Since the sect leader was willing to give him a chance to become his disciple when he saw him, there must be a reason for his talent. More importantly, he reached the limit of the basic realm in a short time. If it wasn't for the fact that he suppressed his realm, he might have broken through to the real martial arts realm. There was no reason for his talent to be bad. Of course, Ningbo also guessed. The reason why his realm improved so fast might be because he hadn't completely refined the efficacy of the marrow cleansing elixir. But this matter, he didn't bother to think about it. Even if his talent was poor, if he could become the sect leader's disciple, with the personal guidance of the second strongest man of the human clan, his achievements in the future would not be worse than those geniuses. After figuring out the key points, Ningbo's eyes regained their vigor. Immediately, he stood up and bowed deeply to Bai Chong. Thank you for your guidance, Deacon Bai. You have allowed me to see the moon. If I succeed in the future, I will not forget your kindness. I'm just stating facts. You don't have to take it too seriously, Bai Chong said modestly with a big smile on his face. Then, the two chatted for a while. Ningbo got up and left. Looking at his back, Bai Chong sighed and said to himself, I hope you can work hard and really become the sect leader's disciple. Not to mention becoming a celestial being in the future. Even if you become a great practitioner of the God martial arts realm, it will make my life more comfortable. To be honest, he didn't have much confidence in Ningbo. Although he was comforting him. But seriously, Bai Chong was not optimistic about it. However, during this period, he had invested a lot in Ningbo. All kinds of cultivation resources, including the guidance of martial arts, were paid for by himself. If Ningbo failed, Bai Chong himself would be heartbroken for a long time. So in his view, he still hoped that Ningbo would work hard and not let him lose everything. Time went by. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. On this day, as soon as Qin Shujian withdrew from the state of cultivation, Zheng Fong had already come to the door. Sect leader, first elder, why are you free today? Qin Shujian skillfully poured 2 cups of spirit tea, then waved his hand and a cup of spirit tea fell in front of Zheng Fong. He said with a faint smile, Or, did something happen in the sect that made the first elder unable to make a decision? Looking at the spirit tea in front of him, Zheng Fong was not careless at all. He picked up the spirit tea and drank it all, allowing the surging spirit energy to explode in his body, and the cultivation method had already begun to operate on its own. A moment later, he let out a sigh of relief. Unknowingly, his cultivation base had increased by another point. This kind of spirit tea is really a rare treasure. Zheng Fong sighed. He also knew that this spirit tea came from Mu Yang. Although he was the first elder, he was not qualified to have a treasure of this level. He could only eat it occasionally when he came to Qin Shujian's place. After digesting the spirit tea, Zheng Fong said with a smile, Sect leader, did you forget that in about 10 days, it should be the day of the sect competition? Sect competition? I remember now. There have been too many things during this period of time, and I almost forgot. Qin Shujian suddenly realized. If Zheng Fong hadn't mentioned it, he would have really forgotten about the sect grand competition. After all, the sect competition was for Qin Shujian. It was just a small matter. It was nothing more than some disciples fighting. At most, there would be 1 or 2 God martial realm cultivators participating. There might not even be any God martial realm cultivators. The highest level would be some spirit martial realm cultivators fighting. For Qin Shujian, during this period of time, the opponents he had killed were all at least at the 7th level of the celestial being realm. He didn't even take ordinary celestial beings seriously, let alone some spirit martial realm cultivators, and even some cultivators below the spirit martial realm. Yes, small cultivators. In Qin Shujian's view, these were all just small cultivators. Even if they were in the god martial realm, in his mind, they were not great cultivators. Zheng Fang said, originally, according to the sect master's intention, the competition was to be held in the main sect. However, we had to first select a portion from the various branches, and then the final competition would be held in the form of the winner. But now that we have the heaven list, I would like to ask the sect leader's opinion. There's no need to go through so much trouble. When the time comes, only the disciples on the heaven list will participate in the competition in the main sect. As for those who are not on the heaven list, they are not qualified to participate in the competition. Qin Shujian said. Being on the heaven list was the best selection, which saved time and effort. Hearing this, Zheng Fang nodded in agreement. Sect leader is right. Then the competition will be held in this way. P.S. Since yesterday, Qidian has been working on anti-piracy. Some of the popular books have been implemented. It should be implemented soon. By then, friends who are still reading pirated books are welcome to download Qidian Reading and find I'm Really Decent to read the original. Chapter 608. The sect grand competition only took the list on the heaven list. After this news spread out, the competition on the heaven list was even more intense. The heaven list ranking was important. It was even more important to be able to participate in the sect grand competition. Anyone with a discerning eye could see. The sect grand competition was based on the heaven list ranking, so such a competition would definitely be even more intense. Similarly, the competition would definitely be intense and the rewards would definitely be very generous. For those disciples, how could they miss such a good thing? The book collection pavilion. Because there were a lot fewer disciples, there were also a lot fewer people in the main sect's book collection pavilion. Some of the books inside. They also made a copy and distributed it to the various branches. It could be said that, after obtaining these books, the library in the branches was actually not much different from the main sect. If there was a difference, it was probably the problem of the divine connection technique. The divine connection technique. In the hands of any top sect, it was a supreme technique that could determine the foundation of the sect. For Yuan Zong, the divine connection technique was also equally important. At this stage, there were not many divine connection techniques in the human race. When Yuan Pavilion was established, a large part of the reason why it was so powerful was because of the techniques. The rogue cultivators in the world. Those who went to Yuan Pavilion to register were mostly aiming for the divine connection technique. Even if they had now opened up the other 3 continents, the divine connection technique was still in the hands of those top forces. No matter who it was, they were not easily leaked out. Therefore, Yuan Zong was also very strict on the path to becoming a diviner. All the divine connection techniques were placed on the 5th floor of the main sect's book collection pavilion. All the branches. They were also not qualified to make a copy. At this moment, the book collection pavilion, which was originally sparsely populated, welcomed a sudden person. On the 4th floor of the book collection pavilion, Wang Taizhu was sitting cross-legged there with his eyes closed. After sensing someone approaching, he also opened his eyes. Elder Shi, why are you free to come to the book collection pavilion today? Are you here to study martial arts? As for Test Jianfeng, Wang Taizhu was also quite familiar with him. Although he didn't meet him much, he had dealt with him a few times. This outer sect elder was very strong. This was Wang Taizhu's biggest impression of Test Jianfeng. Test Jianfeng's expression was cold as he looked at Wang Taizhu and said, I came to the book collection pavilion this time. Not for anything else, but for Elder Wang. Me? Wang Taizhu was puzzled. Test Jianfeng said, Elder Wang is ranked first on the spiritual martial ranking list. I want to learn from Elder Wang and verify my knowledge. First place on the spiritual martial ranking is just a random ranking from the sky ranking. Elder Test, why do you care? The heaven list can't be wrong. Xiao Jianfeng shook his head slightly, then cupped his hands and said, Elder Wang, please enlighten me. Hearing this, Wang Taizhu sighed and said, I am under the orders of the sect master to guard the library. Without orders, I am not allowed to leave at will. And there is no suitable place to fight in the library. I think we should forget about it. Test Jianfeng frowned. He had never thought about this problem. All of a sudden, a person appeared between the two and said with a faint smile, "As long as there are no problems with the library, Elder Wang can leave at any time." Sect Master. Greetings, Sect Leader. Seeing the person who appeared, Wang Taizhu and Test Jianfeng cupped their hands in greeting. Shortly after, Wang Taizhu had a helpless look on his face. Originally, this excuse was enough to block Test Jianfeng. Now Qin Shujian had appeared. Instead, it caused him to fail. Qin Shujian said with a faint smile, "Since you have entered the heaven list, it is reasonable to be challenged. How can you cultivate behind closed doors? You must know that cultivation is like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you will fall behind." "You are right, Sect Leader." Wang Taizhu lowered his head and said, "Go." Qin Shujian waved his hand and said, "Elder Wang wants to challenge you. Don't give him a chance. If you defeat him, at least in the future, he will not harass you. On the contrary, if you are not as powerful as him, it will be difficult to convince the others if you occupy the first place of the spiritual martial list." Sect Leader is right. Wang Taizhu felt helpless. Was the first place of the spiritual martial list something he wanted to be? It was an automatic ranking on the heaven list. However, Wang Taizhu also knew the benefits of being the first place of the spiritual martial force. Not to mention other things, just the time he was on the list, his cultivation speed was much faster than before. And he had a feeling in his heart. If he had guessed correctly, this was the benefit of the sect's luck. Since Qin Shujian had already said this, Wang Taizhu had no reason to back down. Then, he looked at the testing sword peak and said, "I wonder where Elder Wang wants to compete?" "Elder Wang, you can choose." "No need to choose. Let's compete in the martial arts practice field. Let the disciples of the main sect see what stage the strength of the sect elders are at." Qin Shujian interrupted the conversation between the two. "To compete. Of course, to compete in the martial arts practice field. Or else, it would be meaningless to set up the martial arts practice field." Wang Taizhu had no way of refuting Qin Shujian, who liked to watch a good show. Then, the three of them left the book collection pavilion and headed to the martial arts practice field. At the same time, the news of the testing sword peak challenging Wang Taizhu also spread in the main sect. As for Wang Taizhu, most of the disciples left in the main sect had never heard of this name. Not to mention them, even many of the elders and deacons in the sect had forgotten this name. There was nothing they could do about it. Since Wang Taizhu became the elder of the book collection pavilion, he had been cultivating silently in the book collection pavilion, as if he was invisible. As a result, Wang Taizhu did not show his strength. He did not even have much fame. Compared to the other inner sect elders like Zhang Feng and You Feng, his sense of existence was really low. However, what no one had expected was that it was this elder who had no sense of existence that suddenly sat on the throne of the spiritual martial arts list. One must know, there were too many cultivators in the spiritual martial arts realm in the Yuan sect. There were even many experts at the peak of the spiritual martial arts realm. Among these people, there was no lack of experts who could compete with the divine martial arts realm. But even so, he was still ranked below Wang Taizhu. Suddenly, this elder of the book collection pavilion entered everyone's line of sight. However, Wang Taizhu stayed in the book collection pavilion all year round and basically would not take a step out. Even if someone wanted to test the other party's depth, they could not find any opportunity. After all, there were only a few people who were as direct as testing Sword Peak. It was an open and above-board challenge. If they were not careful, they might provoke him. At this moment, in the martial arts practice field, Qin Shujian was already sitting on the top while testing Sword Peak, and Wang Taizhu were standing below. "Sect leader, can we start?" Wang Taizhu tilted his head and said. Qin Shujian said, "No rush, wait a little longer. Now that they are not here yet, why are we in such a hurry to start?" "Okay." Wang Taizhu could only nod in agreement. Not long after, thus, many elders came forth. Not only that, Some disciples who had received the news also rushed over. There were at most 200 people in the main sect, and among these 200 people, not counting those who were cultivating in seclusion, all of them had gathered here. TSK, I haven't seen Elder Wang fight for many years. He really hid his strength well. If it were not for the heaven list, no one would know that Elder Wang was the #1 in the spiritual martial arts realm in the Yuan sect. Su Yuanming stood on the side and looked at Wang Taizhu in the field. His face was full of surprise. To be honest, he had thought that the #1 on the spiritual martial arts ranking could be Zheng Feng, Niu Feng, Zhang Hong, or someone else. Only Wang Taizhu. Su Yuanming had never thought about it. Zheng Feng was not worth mentioning. As the head elder, he had always thought that he had many secrets. Although he rarely fought, but the few times he had fought, his results were very good. He had fought against grand cultivators of the divine martial arts realm. As for Niu Feng, Zhang Hong, and the others, they were not weak either. Su Yuanming asked himself. His strength should be in the top 5 in the spiritual martial arts realm. However, when the heaven list came out, Su Yuanming almost choked. #10 on the spiritual martial arts ranking. He almost fell out of the top 10. Therefore, he also had some resentment towards Wang Taizhu's #1. Hearing this, Zhang Tiniu shook his head and said, maybe it's because he spent more time cultivating, so he's stronger. Su Yuanming rolled his eyes at him. After saying this, Zhang Tiniu did not believe it himself. Then, Su Yuanming said, in Elder Zhang's opinion, who has a higher chance of winning this battle? Elder Wang is #1 on the spiritual martial arts ranking, and Elder Shi is #4 on the spiritual martial arts ranking. The difference is not big. Moreover, after the establishment of the heaven list, it's not like no one has been replaced by the #1. In my opinion, Elder Shi should have a higher chance of winning. Zhang Tiniu analyzed calmly. After Test Jianfeng re-entered the spiritual martial arts realm, he had stepped into the airborne realm in a short time. He was not far from the illustrious divine realm. Purely in terms of realm, Test Jianfeng was not as good as Wang Taizhu. But when the human clan was fighting with the other clans, Test Jianfeng risked his life to kill a demon clan of the divine martial arts realm. That kind of strength, it was not something that could be measured by realm. Once the 7 kills of gods and demons were used, it was not an easy task to block it. At least, Zhang Tiniu himself was not confident that he could take it. Therefore, although Test Jianfeng was only #4, if it was a life and death battle, Wang Taizhu might not be his opponent. Hearing this, Su Yuanming nodded in agreement. Indeed, if it's a life and death battle, no one can beat Elder Shi's strength, except for those guest elders of the divine martial arts realm. Otherwise, no one in the spiritual martial arts realm would be able to stop him. It's just that the competition is not a life and death battle. Some methods may not be suitable. Therefore, in my opinion, Elder Wang has a higher chance of winning. Elder Su wants to make a bet? Zhang Tiniu said with a faint smile. Su Yuanming raised his eyebrows slightly and said, how does Elder Zhang want to bet? I have a piece of fiery solar jade in my hand. It's a level 8 material. If it is given to the forging hall, it might be able to make a powerful upper-grade spiritual weapon. Fiery solar jade. Su Yuanming's expression slightly changed. Soon after, he said with a smile, all right, then I will make a bet with Elder Zhang. However, I don't have any level 8 materials, but I do have a long saber that is a middle-rank spirit weapon. How about I use this sword to exchange for your fiery solar jade? Deal. Zhang Tiniu smiled. Although the fiery solar jade was a level 8 material, it could be made into an upper-grade spiritual weapon. However, a material was still a material. Also, it was not possible to only rely on a piece of fiery solar jade to make an upper-grade spiritual weapon. Most importantly, there was a risk of failure in making a spiritual weapon. In comparison, a mid-grade spiritual weapon for a material that could be made into an upper-grade spiritual weapon had the same value. If Elder Shi wins, the mid-grade spiritual weapon is mine. If Elder Wang wins, the fiery solar jade will be given to you. Okay, then it's a deal. Zhang Tiniu's smile was also very bright. He felt good that he had received a mid-grade spiritual weapon after coming out to watch for a while. although he and Wang Taizhu could be considered colleagues. However, to be honest, Zhang Tiniu did not have much confidence in Wang Tiezhu's strength. The other party was number 1 on the spiritual martial arts ranking list. However, cultivation did not necessarily represent one's strength. There were many elite warriors that could challenge those of a higher level. In terms of realm, many people in the sect could beat Jianfeng. However, in terms of strength, there were not many that dared to say that they were stronger than Jianfeng. On the contrary, Wang Taizhu only focused on cultivation and did not have much battle experience with elite warriors. As for the little bit of combat experience he had back in the Cold Mountain Stockade, it was completely insignificant now. Then, Su Yuanming tilted his head and looked at Zheng Feng and Yo Feng. He said with a light smile, "How about it? Do you two elders want to play together? I'll bet on Elder Shi to win, 1 mid-grade spiritual weapon." Zheng Feng looked calm as he looked at the two in the field and said slowly, "I'll also bet on Elder Shi to win, 1 mid-grade spiritual weapon." Yo Feng followed up and looked at Su Yuanming. He said with a light smile, "This way, if Elder Shi wins, Elder Su will not only lose 1 mid-grade spiritual weapon. Do you think you can catch this plate? It's just a few spiritual weapons. What can I take?" Su Yuanming squinted his eyes and smiled. Soon, a small bet was formed. However, among the onlookers, only a few people paid attention to the two of them. Most of them looked at Qin Shujian, who was sitting at the referee's table. In the eyes of the people of the Yuan sect, Qin Shujian was like a god. Many people who joined the sect did not have the chance to see this sect master. Now they had the chance. Naturally, they could not help but look at him. Seeing that everyone had their Dao weapons, Qin Shujian looked at the field and said loudly, "This competition will only determine the winner, not the life and death. If anyone dares to deliberately kill or even seriously injure someone, he will be severely punished." Hearing this, Su Yuanming's smile was obvious. As for Zhang Tiniu and the others, they looked indifferent. After that, Qin Shujian changed the topic and said, "However, I'll personally act as the judge this time. All of you can feel free to utilize whatever ability you have. There's no need to be too worried." As soon as he said this, Zhang Tiniu and the others smiled brightly. Su Yuanming's smile stiffened. He had forgotten. This competition was hosted by Qin Shujian. Although they were not allowed to kill or seriously injure someone, with the sect master here who dared to injure someone in front of him. At that time, it would be no matter how many means they had. Although Su Yuanming bet on Wang Taizhu to win, the premise was that Test Jianfeng would not use that move that could shock the world. Or else, Wang Taizhu would most likely be defeated. Thinking that he might lose 3 middle-grade spiritual weapons, Su Yuanming's heart twitched slightly. 3 middle-grade spiritual weapons. It was not a small price to pay. Even with his identity as an inner elder and the benefits from the Sundry Hall, he would feel the pain to take out 3 middle-grade spiritual weapons at once. However, since he had already said it, it was impossible to go back on his words. Now, Su Yuanming could only pray that Wang Taizhu could do better. No matter what, his opponent was number 1 on the spiritual martial roll. He should have some means. However, thinking that Wang Taizhu did not go out of the library pavilion, he sighed again. But it's hard to say. At this moment, Qin Shujian waved his hand and a defensive formation fell, covering more than half of the martial arts practice field. Everyone within the range of the formation, except for Wang Taizhu and Test Jianfeng, everyone else was forced out. I've already set up the formation. Even a heavenly being would not be able to break it. Just do whatever you want. After doing all this, Qin Shujian sat comfortably on the judge's seat. In the past few days, he was also a bit bored. Now, among the 4 continents, except for the eastern continent, the other 3 continents were full of undercurrents. Plus, a group of experts had died not long ago. To some clans, it had caused a lot of turmoil, and now he was in the limelight. If he walked out of the human territory, he would definitely attract a lot of attention. Thus, Qin Shujian stayed in the sect with peace of mind and took the opportunity to rest. But rest was just rest. He would still be bored. Therefore, when Test Jianfeng wanted to challenge Wang Taizhu, he came to join in the fun. Wang Taizhu could be number one on the spiritual martial roll. To be honest, not only were the others surprised, even Qin Shujian himself was surprised. He was clear about Test Jianfeng's strength, but Wang Taizhu, Qin Shujian did not know much. When he was at the Cold Mountain Stockade, there was nothing to talk about. His opponent was just a small warrior at the basic realm. Later, after the Yuan sect was established, Wang Taizhu had stayed in the library pavilion and did not come out. After so many years, Qin Shujian did not pay much attention to this elder of the library pavilion. But now it seemed, Wang Taizhu still hid a lot of his strength. Could it be because of the red lotus of purgation? But that can't be right. Although there are not many people who cultivate the red lotus of purgation, there are still a dozen or so. How could Wang Taizhu get the number one position? It's good to have a competition. As the sect leader, if I don't know the strength of the people in the sect, I'm not qualified. Qin Shujian was thinking. His line of sight remained on the two of them. Without a doubt, Wang Taizhu's cultivation was firmly at the peak of the spiritual martial realm. As for Test Jianfeng, he was at the 6th level of the spiritual martial realm. In terms of cultivation, there was a difference of 4 levels. But Test Jianfeng had destroyed his own cultivation and had a strong foundation. He could almost close the gap. In the field, after the formation was set up, Test Jianfeng said calmly, "Elder Wang, please enlighten me." "Please." Wang Taizhu slightly cupped his hands and signaled him to make the first move. For this, Test Jianfeng did not decline modestly. He took a step forward and sword qi appeared under his feet. A sword lotus bloomed in the air, and the long sword on his back was suddenly unsheathed. Half of the long sword left the scabbard, and the accumulated sword qi shot out. Rip! The sword qi cut through the air and caused an ear-piercing sound. Wang Taizhu's face suddenly became serious. His normal skin had a faint golden color, and 2 rows of shallow footprints were left on the field. Then, he punched out and the air exploded. Boom! A terrifying power swept out like a shockwave, forcibly destroying the sword qi. Immediately after, Wang Taizhu threw out a palm with true essence attached to it. Like an angry King Kong, the heavy aura caused the air to condense. Test Jianfeng's eyes lit up and the long sword was completely unsheathed. The frosty white sword light gave people a bone-chilling feeling under the hot sun. In the next moment, the long sword broke through the air and the sword qi tore the sky and split the earth. Wang Taizhu did not dodge. The palm that was originally made of flesh and blood seemed to have turned into metal and collided with the sword qi. Boom, boom, boom. It was fine if the two did not make a move, but once they made a move, it was earth-shattering. The formation only blocked the leaked power of the two, but it did not include the aura. The onlooking disciples all changed their expressions when they felt the vast aura. I know Elder Test's strength. I heard that he once killed a great cultivator of the god martial realm. I just didn't expect Elder Wang's strength to be so terrifying. Of course, he has his reasons for being first on the spiritual martial realm. It's worth the trip. We're all in the spiritual martial realm. The gap is too big. Many disciples let out gasps of surprise. Many of them had not really experienced any great battle. Only a very small number of people were able to maintain a calm expression. These people, they were all disciples who had participated in the great battle between the human race and the other races but luckily survived. They had even witnessed the battle between the celestial being and the emperors of the other races. Compared to them, the battle in front of them was only in the spiritual martial realm. No matter how great the battle was, it could not cause too much of a stir in their hearts. On the other side, the faces of Su Yuanming and the others turned solemn. From the battle until now, both sides were not at a disadvantage. Testing Jianfeng was still fine, but when it came to Wang Taizhu's words, they all had the same thought in their minds, hidden depths. Thinking of this, Su Yuanming said with a smile, Elder Wang is able to be first on the spiritual martial realm. His strength is really amazing. If this continues, Elder Test may not win. This is nothing. Let's talk about it after he can withstand the 7 killings of gods and ghosts. Niu Feng glanced at him and said with a sneer, the battle had just begun, and he already thought that he would not lose? Why were they afraid of Test's sword? Was it because of the strength that he had just displayed? Of course, that was impossible. What they were really afraid of was the shocking sword move that could kill a warrior of the god martial realm. Hearing that, Su Yuanming's smile also faded a little. Indeed, it was too early to talk about winning or losing. Although the battle was fierce, no one had used their true strength. Everything was still to come. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.